Chapter 139. Between the originally neat and tidy mountain rocks, a blazing flame shot up into the sky. The ground began to shake violently. Almost reflexively, Lone Moon quickly conjured a series of hand seals. An array was formed in an instant. It turned into a transparent isolation array and enveloped the person on the ground. In the next moment, there was a series of crashing sounds as the mountain rocks rolled down. A huge object suddenly rushed out from the ground. Its entire body was burning with flames. It was as big as a mountain, covering the sky and sun. It opened its mouth and let out another angry roar. It was as if the entire world was shaking. Lone Moon and I Ching subconsciously turned to look at the person in the array behind them. Both of them heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. His voice could not pass through the isolation array. He did not wake up. What kind of beast is this? I Ching frowned. He had never seen a beast like this before. It was so big that he could not see it clearly, especially the flames surrounding its body. One look and one could tell that it was not an ordinary fire. The moment it appeared, the surroundings had already been scorched. Even immortals like them could feel the heat from such a distance. No, this is not a beast. Lone Moon's expression darkened. He pointed at the huge object that had already burned half the sky red. Quick, look inside the fire. I Ching subconsciously released his divine perception to take a closer look. He saw that the deviant flames were actually covered with layers of what looked like metal armor. There were faint talismans flashing inside, and something like a sequin was flashing continuously. This. Rather than saying it was a spirit beast, it was more like a weapon. But the sound just now was clearly that of a beast. Could it be? I Ching was shocked. Understanding dawned on him. He shouted, "It's an artifact spirit." This artifact had actually developed sentience. It was not easy for anything to become sentient. What's more, weapons were inanimate objects. Yet it could actually develop sentience. This proved that it was not ordinary to begin with. Perhaps it was a divine artifact. Why did we encounter it? This is the myriad sword box. Sun Shu raised his hand and set up a defensive array to block the raging flames. He shouted, "This is the artifact spirit guarding this place. Its original form is a divine artifact. This fire is the 9 underworld flames. Not even divine beings can withstand it, much less immortals. Ordinary water elemental immortal spells are completely useless against it. We can only attack it forcefully, especially when they're still." Before he could finish, there was a ringing sound. Thousands of immortal swords suddenly rushed out of the huge body wrapped in flames. Each of them carried a sharp sword chi, and the wind blades blotted out the sky as they attacked them. Myriad swords formation. Moreover, they were not condensed from immortal energy. Every single one of them was a real sword. I Ching's expression darkened. He activated all the immortal chi in his body and turned to Lone Moon. "Look after Master." With that said, he flew up into the air. His sword chi turned into a dragon and rushed towards the sky full of sword chi. "Got it?" The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched and he took a few steps back. At the same time, he waved his sword to block the rain of swords that he did not manage to block in time. Not a single sword was allowed to enter the isolation array behind him. "Wait, what are you doing?" Sun Shu was stunned. He looked at the two of them anxiously. "What time is it? You guys even protected her while she slept. This is the artifact spirit of a divine artifact, not the ordinary sword chi outside. You can't block it." Divine artifacts were powerful weapons. What's more, this one was sentient. Even the 10 celestial emperors would not be able to defeat it. "We'd better wake Shining up quickly. Perhaps we can still win." As she spoke, she turned to walk towards the isolation array. "No." Lone Moon's face paled. He turned the sword in his hand and a row of spirit swords appeared beside Sun Shu. Then he flew over and grabbed Sun Shu back. In a serious tone that he had never used before, he said, "Trust me, the consequences of waking her up are even more terrifying than that of an artifact spirit." "What the hell?" Sun Shu was stunned. Just as he was about to say something, the ground beneath his feet shook. A large number of immortal swords suddenly emerged from the ground and flew towards the direction behind them. Oh no! Lone Moon's heart skipped a beat. It was too late for him to turn around and block the immortal swords. He could only watch as the immortal swords emerged from the ground and destroyed the isolation array he had set up. That was not the end of it. The gigantic artifact spirit suddenly spat out a flame that forced I Ching to retreat. Then it turned around and lunged towards I Ching. It opened its huge mouth and bit down. "Master!" I Ching cried out in shock. However, he could only watch as the huge divine artifact swallowed Shining, who was behind him, along with a radius of more than 100 feet around her, with a rumble. All that was left was a scorched pit that was more than 10 feet wide. Roar, a loud roar reverberated through the night sky. Sun Shu, eaten? I Ching and Lone Moon's faces paled. It was as if they had been frozen in place. I told you, to wake her up. Sun Shu looked at the two of them sympathetically. Otherwise she wouldn't have run. Before he could finish speaking, Lone Moon suddenly shouted. He turned around and started running. At the same time I Ching, who was still in midair, also ran on his sword. In a flash he disappeared. What was going on? Weren't they sad about their companion's death? Why were they running? Sun Shu was confused. He did not have time to react. All of a sudden the artifact spirit in front of him shook. Then there was a loud rumble. It sounded like something was collapsing. The gigantic divine artifact, which was so tall that its top could not be seen, suddenly collapsed like a building that had been blown up. In an instant, it became a pile of scrap metal. The immortal swords that had filled the sky all fell to the ground like dumplings being thrown into a pot. With a loud tearing sound, the divine artifact on the ground suddenly split open. The divine artifact's original source, golden light, gushed out. From the center of the golden light, a person slowly walked out. Golden light filled the sky, accompanied by an angry roar. So noisy. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt something overwhelming pouncing on him, causing him to be unable to breathe. Killing intent. What a strong killing intent. Immense fear filled his entire body. His entire body turned cold. There was only one word left in his mind: die. Suddenly he understood why the two people reacted the way they did. He could only do the same thing now. Run. He used all the immortal chi in his body and rushed in the direction that the two people had disappeared. He used his cultivation to the maximum and almost instantly caught up with the two people's speed. He only hoped that he could make it. There was a flash of white light and a familiar figure appeared in front of the three people. The three people? That was way too fast. Shining stood there quietly. She was expressionless, but the three of them felt a chill in their hearts. She narrowed her eyes and looked straight at the person on the right. She reached out. I Ching shivered and pulled out a piece of barbecued meat. He shouted, "Master wants supper?" Her hand paused. She changed her target instantly and looked at the person beside her. "I have pastries. Do you want some?" Lone Moon immediately held out a bowl. Fortunately, he had secretly hidden a plate for dinner. Her hand paused again and reached out to the third person. "Sun Shu. Son of AB *T. Wait, what are you doing? Wake up and look carefully. I'm Sun Shu. No. Help." Chapter 140. Early morning. When Shining woke up, Father Nyo and Chef were digging something in a pile of scrap metal. The more they dug, the more excited Father Nyo became. He smiled like a sunflower. "This thing is actually made of supreme-grade materials. Holy shit, this source is actually heavenly firestone. Keep it. I Ching, you still have storage bags, right? Hurry up and pack it. Pack as much as you can." Shining stretched lazily and waved a hand in greeting. "Good morning." The two who were picking up the scraps suddenly trembled and turned to look at her. There was an indescribable strangeness in their expressions. What's wrong? Why were they looking at her like that? Shining went forward and kicked the pile of rubbish. "What's this? Where did it come from? She didn't seem to be here last night." "Master, you're awake?" I Ching walked over and asked tentatively. She nodded subconsciously. "It came from underground," Lone Moon replied. "It's a divine artifact that has developed sentience. Although it's already destroyed, its materials can still be reused." Shining did not continue asking. She looked around and suddenly said, Where's the gardener? Why did he disappear? Did he go home to plant trees?" I Ching, Lone Moon, the two did not answer. They just looked at her strangely for a while. Then they looked down at her feet. "What's wrong?" Shining felt a little uncomfortable. "Why are you looking at me like that?" She subconsciously followed their gaze and looked down. "What's under my feet? Holy shit. Why was there really a person here?" And he was stuck in a crack in the ground, the kind that was swollen like a ball. Shining squatted down and grabbed the person's collar. With a pull there was a sound. She pulled the person out like pulling a carrot. On a closer look, it was actually the gardener. "Why did you dig into the crack for no reason? Look at your swollen." Even if he wanted to cool down, he couldn't be like this. If not for that familiar blue robe, she wouldn't even recognize him. "I say, you, don't come over." Sun Shu instantly jumped up and retreated a few meters away. He raised his face that no longer had the slightest hint of coquettishness, and shrank back desperately. Stay away from me, do you hear me? If you dare to come over, I will die in front of you. Shining, what a terrifying threat, straight face, chef. She nudged the person beside her and lowered her voice. What's wrong with him? How did this happen all of a sudden? No, nothing. I Ching's mouth twitched. Maybe. I didn't sleep well last night. He had been beaten up for an entire night for no reason. Oh. Shining nodded. It would be a wonder if he could sleep well in a crack. She was about to ask for more details. Lone Moon suddenly said, all right, that's enough. We're almost done. He glanced at Sun Shu, who could only be described as a coward, and added, we'll set off once Sun Shu has recovered. Actually, Shining had only woken up for about 10 minutes last night before falling asleep again. However, perhaps because he had been beaten up so badly, Sun Shu refused to come out after being punched into the crack. Lone Moon and I Ching had wanted to help him, but he had panicked and even made a solemn vow. I'm not coming out. You two rascals, don't try to trick me into coming out to get beaten up. He did not even dare to regulate his own breathing and forced himself to stay awake until Shining woke up. This psychological trauma was unparalleled. Hearing Lone Moon's instructions, Sun Shu regained his composure and retreated a few steps cautiously before sitting down to meditate. He had never been beaten up so badly before. If he had not been smart enough to hide in the crack and pretend to be dead, his immortal bones would have been broken by her. Wasn't it because he had been woken up? Her sleeping habits were too scary. Sun Shu had the cultivation of a young emperor after all. After meditating for an hour, his injuries were completely healed. Shining took the opportunity to have breakfast. Let's set off. The unknown region is just ahead. Everyone be extra careful. Lone Moon said. They had just arrived and they had already encountered a divine artifact that had developed sentience. Who knew what they would encounter later on? He flew up on his sword and the four of them flew forward. In front of them was still a barren desert with no end in sight. All around them were all kinds of rocks and there were very few plants. But the strange thing was, compared to the other areas that were full of weapon refinement materials, this place seemed especially clean. There were no first or second level materials, much less high-grade weapon refinement ores, let alone divine artifacts. The four of them flew in this unknown region for 4 to 5 days, but still found nothing. Lone Moon was getting a little anxious. If the situation continued like this, they might as well go back. Father Nyo. Shining suddenly spoke. Why are we back again? What? Lone Moon replied. What do you mean back? Before he could finish speaking, he followed her line of sight and was instantly shocked. Holy shit. It was a pile of broken bones, the bones of demon beast. It was not strange for bones to appear in such a barren desert, but the point was, they were thrown there by them during dinner 2 days ago. Lone Moon directly flew down and took a closer look. It was indeed the pile that they left behind 2 days ago. But this was clearly not the place where they rested that day. Could it be? His expression changed and he hurriedly looked at the person beside him. I Ching 5 elements array. I Ching nodded and swept the long sword in his hand. Immediately, 5 swords formed from immortal chi were inserted into 5 different positions. Lone Moon's hands conjured a seal and set up an array. Instantly, a few rays of light lit up. The scenery around them shook and the ground distorted. In a short while, all kinds of different things appeared. There were withered leaves and weeds, but most of them were fruit shells, residues, broken bones and other rubbish. They were all left behind by them in the past few days. They were all within a radius of more than 10 meters. Some were even less than a few feet away. How could this be? Could it be that they had been going around in the same place these few days? The key was that they did not notice anything. It's the spirit zither array. Sun Shu suddenly opened his mouth and took a step forward. The spirit zither array can create a circular barrier. No matter how far you go in, you will always return to the same place. But the scenery inside is constantly changing. We should be inside this barrier. As he spoke, he conjured a seal with one hand and muttered something. His hand flashed and he flew forward. Instantly, a white light flashed in front of them. A transparent barrier suddenly appeared in the originally empty sky. It was like a transparent membrane covering their eyes. Not far above them, something golden was gathering. They took a closer look and saw that it was actually a 4-leaf clover pattern. This should be the entrance to the center of the immortal realm. Sun Shu's eyes lit up as if he could not suppress his excitement. He took out a winter spirit leaf from his side and threw it at the pattern in the air. Immediately, the barrier in front of them shook and slowly split in the middle. In a short while, it formed the shape of an arched door. This is the entrance. Sun Shu's face was full of joy. He pointed at the arched door and said as he walked, "Let's go in quickly." "Oh," Shining suddenly said. "You've been here before." Sun Shu froze. Chapter 141. Ha ha ha, Sun Shu laughed dryly. After a while, he replied stiffly, "How could I have been here before? I was just guessing." "That's right, I was just guessing." Ha. The three of them stared at him. After a while, they replied in unison, "Oh, Sun Shu." What did they mean by, "oh"? Did they believe him or not? Sun Shu panicked. Oh no, were they going to be exposed? "Let's go." Shining suddenly stepped forward. Didn't you say it was the entrance?" She waved at them as she walked towards the arched door. "Chef, Father Nyo, let's go." After saying that, he stepped inside first. The other two glanced at each other before following suit. Sun Shu was left with a confused look on his face. That was it? Weren't they going to get to the bottom of it? Why did he suddenly feel a little disappointed? Glancing at the three of them who had already entered, he clenched his fists by his side and followed them. The moment they passed through the arched door, the scenery in front of them changed completely, as if a curtain had been lifted. A scorching aura hit them in the face. There were deviant fires and lava everywhere. The temperature was extraordinarily high. All around them was scorched earth. In front of them was a volcano that reached the clouds. It stood between heaven and earth. There were all kinds of swords stuck in the ground. Rather than calling it a volcano, it was more like sword catacomb. Lone Moon exclaimed subconsciously. Looking at the immortal swords everywhere, he wondered how much they would cost. It was a pity that these were all immortal swords that had already been sealed. Unless they recognized a new owner, they would not leave with anyone. They might as well be materials. As there were too many deviant fires on the ground, the few of them had to continue flying on their swords. Everywhere they passed, there were all kinds of sounds of swords humming. It seemed that no one had entered this sword catacomb for a long time. That was why these immortal swords were reacting so strongly. "The sword room is over there. Let's go." Sun Shu pointed at the bottom of the huge volcano. Seeing the three of them turn to look at him in confusion, his heart sank. He immediately added, "Should." "Oh," Shining replied. She pulled Chef along and flew in the direction Sun Shu had pointed. After flying for a while, the surrounding temperature dropped instantly. Only then did they see that the bottom of the mountain fire was abruptly surrounded by a circle of ice. It was like a fault separating the inside and outside worlds. They flew down and landed on the ice. Sure enough, there was an entrance not far in front of them. It was a door made of ice and it was wide open, leading to the inside of the volcano. It was a bit far away so they couldn't see what was inside. Just as they were about to go over, a few popping sounds came from below. The ground shook and transparent bubbles as tall as a human suddenly emerged from the layer of ice. It floated in midair and instantly filled the entire ice surface. This ice can blow bubbles? Is it made of soap and water? Don't go over there, it's the 1,000-ray array. Sun Shu frowned and hurriedly stopped them. I didn't expect that there would be a 1,000-light array in a place like this. These look like bubbles, but they are formed by the condensation of immortal chi and are indestructible. Each of them has a sword chi sealed inside. Once you touch them, you will be trapped inside. What's more, it can absorb attacks of any element. We'd better go around. What are you doing? As he spoke, he saw I Ching unsheath his sword and walk straight toward the group of bubbles. Wait. Sword techniques alone can't break through. Before he could finish speaking, he saw I Ching's immortal chi explode. His entire body shone with golden light, and in an instant, a huge sword was formed. Sword chi filled the sky, and I Ching waved his hand. There was a loud bang followed by a cracking sound. All the bubbles and the layer of ice on the ground broke into pieces. The entire 1,000-light array collapsed in an instant. It broke. This was too fast? What happened to being able to absorb attacks of any kind? You must be kidding me. Master said, one strong man can defeat 10. As if sensing his confusion, I Ching turned to look at Shining and said, Master, we can go now. I'll thank you for your hard work. Shining nodded and walked over the broken ice with a natural expression. Sun Shu. Lone Moon patted Sun Shu's shoulder and said with an understanding expression, You'll get used to it. It's just a cheat, haven't you seen the big one already? Why make a fuss about it? The group then walked into the volcano. It was a very long tunnel. It was pitch black inside as if no one had been here for a long time. The tunnel was filled with black dust. Lone Moon turned his hand and conjured a fire seal. The tunnel immediately lit up. As they walked in, they observed the materials around them. Let's see where we can dig? It was a pity that although the tunnel was old, it was clearly well designed. There was not a single crack in it and it had no commercial value. The deeper they went, the smoother the walls became. The entire interior of the volcano looked like it had been hollowed out. It was very spacious inside and there were even rows of huge stone pillars. They could not see the end of the tunnel and they had no idea how big it was. Be careful. Sun Shu called out anxiously. He pulled Lone Moon, who was walking in front, back. Then there was a clanging sound. An immortal sword stabbed into the ground at his feet. Lone Moon jumped. What's going on? Just as he finished speaking, the immortal sword seemed to have triggered some kind of switch. There was a series of swishing sounds. Suddenly, countless immortal swords rushed out from all directions, spinning like a tornado. Huge amounts of sword chi rushed towards them. They had no choice but to take a few steps back. There were a few flashes of light inside, and their surroundings suddenly lit up. Only then did they see the situation in front of them clearly. Swords. There were immortal swords everywhere. Countless immortal swords seemed to have come to life, dancing in the vast space in front of them. It was as if they could cut everything into pieces if they took a step closer. It's a sword array again. Lone Moon frowned. It did not look like it would be easy to deal with. This is the myriad phenomenon sword array, Sun Shu said. Myriad phenomenon. Lone Moon was shocked. His expression darkened. Is this the legendary strongest sword array, the one that can kill even divine beings? He had seen this array in some ancient books that he had dug out from the Qingtong immortal abode. But wasn't that just a legend? That should be it. Sun Shu nodded. I don't know how to break this array either. It looks like we'll have to put in a lot of effort to get through. Oh then. Lone Moon looked at the densely packed sword array in front of him once more. Then he turned around and said, let's go back. What? Wait. Sun Shu pulled him back, his face full of disbelief. You're giving up just like that? Are you sure you don't want to go in and take a look? That's right. Lone Moon nodded matter-of-factly. Didn't you say we can't get through? It's about time. We should go back. What's more, we didn't see any useful materials along the way. Who knows if there are any inside? Rather than wasting time here, they might as well go back and pick up some leftovers. He waved at the other two and said, let's go, Shining Yi Qing. Chapter 142. Seeing that the three of them were about to leave, Sun Shu was stunned. He blocked them once again. Don't do that. We're already at the entrance. Why don't we go in and take a look? Who knows, there might be even better materials inside. Such a low probability of success is not worth investing in. Sun Shu looked determined. Did they have to be so straightforward? This was obviously a treasure trove. Were these three stupid? Why would they go back to mining? Wait a minute. Sun Shu's expression darkened. He gritted his teeth as if he had made up his mind. I'll tell you the truth. There must be a treasure in such a powerful sword array. Maybe it's the six-joint sword. The three of them stared blankly at each other before replying in unison, oh. What did they mean by, oh? And then? Do you have a recorder? What do you mean? Sigh. Lone Moon sighed and rolled his eyes. I mean, even if there's the six-joint sword inside, what has it got to do with us? That's the six-joint sword. Didn't you come here to look for? Pui? Even if you didn't come here to look for the sword. But don't you want it? It's a divine weapon, a divine weapon. Aren't you tempted at all? I don't want it. Lone Moon's expression was calm. Even the other two looked disinterested. What's more, aren't divine weapons only used by young emperors and above? What are we doing here? Are we going to be beaten up by the entire immortal realm? Are you stupid? Sun Shu was speechless. What was going on? Suddenly he felt that Gushu was right. What's more, this stupid sword array looks very troublesome. Lone Moon glanced at the array in front of them. Don't you want Shining to do it? But this is a volcano. She can't control herself. If she doesn't break the array, she might even cause the mountain to collapse. Let's not talk about whether she will hurt me by accident. Are you sure you can find some stupid sword in the ruins? Shining? Why do I feel like I'm being looked down upon? Gushu's expression darkened. That was exactly what he was thinking. This sword array is indeed unbreakable. Alright, let's go back to mining. There was only slightly more than a month left. He had to hurry up and earn money. Lone Moon turned and was about to leave when he realized that I Ching suddenly stopped moving. Instead, he turned to look at the sword array behind him. What are you doing? This array is so powerful. I Ching clenched his fists and turned to Shining. Master, can I try to break the array? Shining paused. You're crazy. Lone Moon objected. Didn't you hear what he said? This is the 10,000 images sword formation. Can even kill gods. Are you courting death by entering? That's why I want to give it a try. His expression became even more resolute. Cultivating the way of the sword has always been difficult. Facing difficulties is the way of the sword. I came to the celestial region to gain experience. Now that the tribulation was right in front of them, there was no reason for them to retreat. Master, please allow your disciple to try and break the formation. Oh. Shining tilted her head. Go then. Shining. Thank you, Master. I Ching turned his hand and condensed a sword with immortal chi. He turned and rushed into the sword array. Wait. Lone Moon did not stop him. He turned and glared at Shining. Are you crazy? Aren't you asking him to go in and die? Father Nyo, calm down. Shining patted his shoulder. Didn't he say that? If he doesn't force himself, he won't know how awesome he can be. Did he say that just now? Wait. It was rare for Shining to be so straightforward. Could it be that you've already seen that he has the strength to break the array? No. Shining said seriously. I'm talking nonsense. Lone Moon, Sun Shu, damn it. Bam, a strange sound came from within the sword array. I Ching, who had rushed into the sword array, was hit by an immortal sword. A wound appeared on his body and blood flowed like a fountain. His body, which had been moving like a shadow, also slowed down. He was drowned by the sword wind. After losing this advantage, more and more wounds appeared on his body. The sword array moved faster and faster. Even the sword shadows could not be seen. There was no time to condense immortal chi. Shit. Lone Moon and Sun Shu's faces darkened. They finally understood why even divine beings could not stop this array. It was really too fast. If this continued, I Ching would be cut into pieces by the sword array. No way. Shining, in 2 more minutes, if he can't break the array, you go in and save him. She nodded. The situation inside was getting worse. The sword array moved faster and faster. I Ching had completely given up on defense. He attacked as a form of defense. But this caused the injuries on his body to multiply. The more Lone Moon watched, the more anxious he became. This guy was really going all out. You have to think of something. Help him. Lone Moon nudged Shining beside him. Aren't you his master? This is a good opportunity. Teach him. Teach what? How would I know? He glared at her. Don't you have a glib tongue? Once you teach him, you cheat. Say what you said in the past. Defeat 10 with 1 strength? Become 1 with the sword? Yes, continue. That's all. That was all she had read in martial arts novels. Holy shit. Everything that happened in the past was definitely a scam, right? He hurriedly looked at the person in the array and found that the situation was getting worse. I'm telling you, this sword array is ever-changing. Any move is meaningless. You'd better teach him something concrete. If his injuries get worse, no one will cook for you. Shining was stunned. Her eyes widened. She stepped forward and looked at the flying swords. Teaching disciples was so troublesome. What should she do? What should she do? How would she know what move? Cough that chef. She suddenly remembered a saying. She said loudly, have you heard of this saying? Swordsmanship is natural. No move is better than having a move? No move is better than having a move? The figure in the array suddenly stopped. So, thousands of immortal swords rushed towards him, piercing through his body. Blood splattered everywhere. Lone Moon, Sun Shu, holy shit, Shining? Are you here to help or to cause trouble? You can't teach blindly like this? No move is better than having a move. Asking him to stop at this time is asking him to die. Boom! Before Lone Moon could finish speaking, a huge burst of sword chi burst out from within the sword array. The figure that had been pierced into a sieve by the swords suddenly disappeared like a phantom. The immortal swords in the entire sword array suddenly stopped and began to shake violently. The buzzing sound of the swords filled the entire space. These swords seemed to have met their natural enemy. In a short while they fell to the ground like dumplings. They filled half the space. The familiar sword intent was everywhere like the air. It was so oppressive that one could not breathe. I Ching stood high up on the pile of swords. The sword array was broken. How the F*** could this happen? Is sword qi? Sun Shu muttered in a daze. It was more than twice as strong as before. Indeed, sword immortals had to cultivate hard. He had never seen such a huge amount of sword qi. Even the sword qi on his body seemed to be suppressed. His cultivation was clearly higher. No, the immortal qi on his body was suppressed by him on purpose? He was having an epiphany. Thank you for your guidance, master. I Ching's figure flashed and he returned to Xin Ying's side. He knelt down on one knee and looked up at her excitedly. His white robes were still stained with blood. How are your injuries? Xin Ying asked. Can you cook? It's all right. It's just a small injury. Master really cared about him. He was happy. Oh, that's good. She was relieved. Lone Moon. Son of AB***. Why did he have to say so much just now? He knew that Xin Ying was an epiphany to I Ching. The sword array has been broken. Let's go. I Ching reminded them. He turned and swept away the sword mountain in front of him, clearing a path. Only then did everyone see that the opposite side was a sea of red. There was hot air coming from it and the sound of lava bubbling could be heard. The center of the mountain is inside. Sun Shu's eyes lit up. He hurried in that direction. The three of them followed. There was a huge space inside. There was lava everywhere. Occasionally, a few flames would shoot out from the surface. The flames were very special. They were purple and had some black spots. Above the lava, there was a stone bridge leading to the center. It was tens of meters high, but it could not block the heat of the flames. It was as if they could burn everything in the world. Lone Moon subconsciously wanted to set up an isolation array for them. But he heard Sun Shu, who was the first to enter, exclaim, "How could this be?" Chapter 143. Sun Shu was standing in the middle of a circular platform. On the platform was a metal table that looked like a casting table. A ball of black flames was burning brightly on the table. In the middle of the flames, there was a faint golden light flashing. The few of them walked closer and realized that there was an illusory image of a sword floating in the light. It rippled like water, faintly discernible. Sun Shu stood at the side in shock, his face full of disbelief. He muttered, "How can this be? How can this be?" He took a few steps back, his eyes full of disappointment. He laughed self-deprecatingly and said, no wonder the clan rules say that no one can obtain this sword. So that's how it is." Lone Moon stepped forward to look at the sword in the flames. Suddenly he thought of something and frowned. Could this be the six-joint sword? Sun Shu paused and clenched his fists by his side. Then he slowly nodded. How can that be? The thing in the flames was clearly the shadow of a sword. It's the Mirage Divine spell. Before Lone Moon could finish, Sun Shu explained in disappointment, this sword is sealed in the void of chaos. So although it can be seen, there is no way to retrieve it. So this is the power of creation that can split the heavens and split the earth. Because it was sealed in the void of chaos, unless one had the ability to break through realms, there was no way to retrieve it. You want it? Xin Ying suddenly asked. Sun Shu laughed self-deprecatingly. Everyone who enters the immortal realm wants this sword. Oh. It's a pity that this sword is not in this realm. No one. Wait, what are you doing? He turned his head, only to see Xin Ying suddenly reach out towards the flames. This is immortal origin fire, you can't. Before he could finish speaking, Xin Ying's hand had already passed through the black flames. She tightened her grip and with a whoosh she pulled the sword out of the flames. In an instant, golden light shone brightly and thick immortal chi filled the entire space. She took it out? How could this be? Xin Ying looked at the sword in her hand. Apart from the yellow dot, it did not seem to be anything special. She threw the sword to Sun Shu and said, Here. She gave it to him? Was he hallucinating? He looked at the sword in his hand with a dumbfounded expression. When he raised his head to look at the person opposite him, he realized that she had already turned around to look at the person behind her. Father Nyo, I think this fire is not bad. Master, this is the essence flame of the immortal world. No other deviant flames can compare to it. Oh, do you want to bring it back? Lone Moon rolled his eyes at them. Isn't that obvious? Of course we have to bring it back. The key is that this fire can burn anything. There's nothing to store it in. Master, this table doesn't seem to be burning. Could it be that it can restrain this fire? Why don't we take the table with us? I Ching, do you have any more space in your storage bag? There's only half of the last one left. I wonder if it's enough? Whatever, let's put it on first. Thus, the three of them each took a corner of the storage bag and walked toward the exceptional flame platform. They looked like they wanted to take the pot away with them. Sun Shu, hey hey hey. The divine artifact is right here, why don't you take a look at it? Why were they all staring at that ball of fire and drooling? Was the fire more important than the divine artifact? Why did he suddenly feel like he was going blind? The corner of his mouth twitched. He glanced at Shining, then lowered his head to look at the sword in his hand. Finally, he could not help but call out, Shining. The person who was about to instruct them to move the table turned back. You really gave this sword to me? Yes. Shining nodded. Was there a problem? She did not guarantee it. Sun Shu still could not believe it. He reminded her again, this is a divine artifact. She had given it to him so easily. Even the other two did not seem to have any objections. I know. You don't want it? He was at a loss for words. He was even more conflicted now. She knew from the start that he had followed them because he wanted to use her to find this sword. He had clearly suspected him the entire way here, and he had already made preparations to fight to the death if he really found him. But she actually gave it to him just like that. There was no hesitation or reluctance. She threw it to him as if it was a bun. What? Huh? Shining paused. She looked even more confused. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Does it need a reason? He was about to ask more questions when Lone Moon urged, Shining, help me open the bag. Otherwise, how are we going to put it in? Shining turned around and tugged at the storage bag. Sun Shu clenched his fists. Looking at the three busy people, he chuckled. A while later, the table is not restraining the fire. It's the living soil on it. What the hell was this uncontrollable urge to remind them? Sun Shu took 2 steps forward and pushed aside the people surrounding the table. He grabbed a handful of yellow soil from the table and threw it into the fire. The black fire immediately shrunk into a ball. The soil immediately surrounded the fire. Within seconds, it formed a yellow ball of soil and landed on the table. That'll do. He handed over the yellow ball wrapped in flames. Wow! The three of them exclaimed like country bumpkins. So this kind of technology existed. Lone Moon took it. Indeed, the deviant fire wrapped in the living soil was no longer warm. It was even slightly cold. He immediately kept it in his storage bag. Glancing at the table beside him, he narrowed his eyes and waved to the 2 people behind him. Continue carrying it. Take it all away. Don't waste it. How poor are you guys? The corner of his mouth twitched as he watched the few of them shove the table into their storage bags. Suppressing the veins on his forehead, he took a deep breath and took a step forward. He walked to the center of the room and held the god artifact in his hands. His eyes darkened as he said, This sword. Thank you. You're welcome. Shining replied subconsciously. Do you want to know why I want this weapon? Sun Shu clenched his fists. Suddenly he had the urge to say something. The 3 people turned to look at him. Sun Shu took a deep breath. Although he had chased them all the way here in the name of the Winter Spirit Leaf, these people had been very loyal to him. They knew what he wanted but did not attack him. What's more, they had given him the sword so readily. He should not continue to hide it. Otherwise he would be a villain. Actually, I don't want to know. Before he could finish, the 3 of them spoke in unison. Shining, that's so troublesome. One look and I can tell you're going to tell a long story. It's almost dinner time. It's not good for your stomach if you're late. Lone Moon, we're not that close. Why should we be interested in your tragic past? If we have the time, we might as well continue looking for materials. I Ching, it's time to prepare dinner. What does Master want to eat tonight? Sun Shu, what the hell? Can you guys at least have some normal reactions? For all. Chapter 144. The Yu Feng Immortal Region is not an immortal region left behind by the ancient gods. It is the residence of the Flowing Flame clan. The so-called 10 Directions divine weapon is not a weapon left behind by the gods, but a sacred weapon forged by my clan. Originally, it was just a divine artifact used to suppress this immortal region and maintain the stability of this realm. My ancestors were born in the chaos. This immortal region is a world created by them after many generations. Although it is outside the 3,000 worlds, it is a world of its own. My clansmen are born with the ability to form objects. Our clansmen are born to be good at forging magic weapons. But it was also because of this ability that brought about a calamity. The weapons we forged became stronger and stronger, even possessing the ability to split open the heavens. Because of this, our clan's name shook the 3 realms. The immortal energy of the ancient immortal world was not like it is today, no different from the divine realm. Immortals and the divine race often had conflicts. The celestial emperor of the immortal world asked us to forge a batch of weapons that could restrain the divine race. Although we did not agree, we did forge a few weapons that were powerful enough to restrain the divine race. This caused the divine race to be furious, and of course they attacked us. Although we had the support of the divine weapon, our clansmen were too few and naturally could not resist the powerful divine race. That battle was very tragic. The entire Yufeng immortal region was destroyed and our clan was almost wiped out. Only a small number of clansmen escaped to the 3,000 worlds. Yufeng immortal region fell to the immortal world. To protect our heritage, our clan leader sealed the abilities of our clansmen into our bloodlines to avoid the divine race's pursuit. We looked forward to the day when our descendants could return here and regain the glory of our ancestors. But most of the clansmen who escaped entered the mortal world. The spirit energy in the mortal world is thin, and it is difficult to ascend, let alone awaken a bloodline. 100,000 years ago, I awakened my bloodline memories by chance. That's how I found the winter spirit leaf that could allow me to cross the lofty river. It was also because of these memories that I learned about the situation in the immortal region. Although all of this happened in the ancient times, the original Flowing Flame clan may have been no different from ordinary people like me. However, I still want to find my clansmen. This hexagon sword is actually the cornerstone of this immortal region. It is also the key that seals the bloodline memories of our clansmen. Only it can awaken the memories of our clansmen. Now you should understand why I must obtain this sword, right? Sun Shu finished speaking in one breath. He sucked in a deep breath and looked at the trio anxiously. *CK. Shining, you foodie, at least leave some food for me, right? Aren't you afraid of bursting to death by eating so much? I saved it for you. Keep your sister. Other than green peppers, chives, and garlic, is there anything else in this bowl? Where's the meat? Don't be picky. How dare you say that? Wait. Iching, you bootlicker, put down that pastry. I made it. *CK. The three of them were fighting for food in full swing. From the beginning to the end, no one cast a glance in their direction. Sun Shu. He vaguely felt as if something had snapped in his mind. Flips table. For all. Ngunguo, was he even listening? At least show some respect. He must be blind to want to be honest with these people. This trip to Yufeng Immortal Region took only 1.5 months. They came out early. Because their storage bags were full. Considering that it would take more time to go back and buy more, Lone Moon had no choice but to go back. Before they could cross the Miaoshui River, they saw a row of people standing by the river looking in their direction. Fellow Immortally, you came out quite quickly. Immortal Emperor Guyu smiled kindly as he walked up to them. It was obvious that he had not left for the past month. He had been waiting for them to come out. He glanced at I Ching and paused. Looks like you've gained a lot from this trip. The sword chi around him had actually increased by so much. Immortal Emperor. I Ching nodded in greeting. I wonder if you have any news about the hexagon sword or the divine artifact? He asked anxiously. Both. He answered honestly. What? Guyu paused, not understanding what he meant. Exalted Emperor Gu. Before he could ask, Sun Shu took a step forward. Instead of asking him, why don't you ask me directly? Guyu frowned and asked tentatively, what do you mean, young Emperor Sun? What I mean is. Sun Shu smiled. The hexagon sword is already mine. Exalted Emperor, you don't have to send sword immortals in to search for the sword for you anymore. What? Guyu's face contorted, but he recovered quickly. You really found the hexagon sword? That's right. I didn't expect to be so lucky. With a flick of his wrist, a small golden sword appeared in Sun Shu's hand. It was the six-joint sword. Guyu's expression darkened. He took a few deep breaths as if trying to suppress his anger. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, Congratulations, young Emperor Sun. Although his cultivation level was higher than Sun Shu's, Sun Shu was a sword immortal. Now that he had 2 divine artifacts, he might not be Sun Shu's match. He could only swallow his anger. Turning back to look at I Ching, he said with a half-smile, I didn't expect some people to be so useless. To think that I was filled with anticipation. Then, without waiting for a response, he snorted, waved his hand and flew away with the group behind him. It was as if he did not want to look at them again. Shining, who had just taken out the repaired myriad sword box. They've already left. Should she give it to them or not? Forget it if you don't want it. Lone Moon immediately took the myriad sword box from her and stuffed it back into his storage bag. He had been afraid that I Ching would not be able to explain himself, so he went back to pick it up and asked Sun Shu to repair it, intending to give it to the immortal emperor. This saved him a lot of trouble. Although divine artifacts could only be used by young emperors and above, they could still be used to dismantle the heavenly firestone. It would be a waste not to take it. You'd better leave this place quickly, Sun Shu reminded them. Although Guyu knows that the hexagon sword is in my hands, he's always been petty. You've embarrassed him. He won't let you off so easily. What's more, you're on their turf. Sun Shu stopped mid-sentence as if thinking of something. Why don't you move to my Shandong immortal abode? No thanks. The environment there is quite good. Lone Moon rejected the offer. There were no natural business opportunities like the invincible sect anywhere else. What's more, with the cheat, they were not afraid of the immortal emperor's tricks. But I'm afraid we'll have to trouble young Emperor Sun in the future. Alright, it's good that you know what to do. Sun Shu turned to look at Shining, who was sitting lazily beside him. He had the same thought. You've helped me a lot this time. If you need anything, feel free to look for me. Lone Moon's eyes flashed. Then I'll thank young Emperor Sun in advance. He cupped his fists and bowed. Turning to the other two, he said, let's go home. Shining was just about to step forward when her clothes tightened. Master, I might not be able to. I Ching's expression changed. In a low voice he said, I can't suppress my immortal chi. I be about to break through. Shining, Lone Moon, son of AB***. Chapter 145. 3 months later. Siyu greets sect master and 2 elders. Siyu walked into the back hall looking travel-worn. She bowed to the few of them. Hey, little green. Shining waved a hand in greeting out of habit. Siyu's eyes lit up. Her tired face brightened. You're back. Lone Moon glanced at her. How was it? Did everything go well? Yes. Siyu nodded. She took out a storage bag from her side and handed it over. I've completed the task that Elder asked me to do. Exalted Immortal Shu asked me to pass this to Elder. What? Shining asked curiously. She had not seen Little Green for a few days. Father Nyo had sent her out. The rest of the payment, Lone Moon answered. He opened the storage bag. A white light flashed out. The few of them were almost blinded by the immortal stones that were stuffed into the bag. This, so much? Shining and his pauper friends were all stunned. Didn't I give Shu Jiang a few talismans to auction? Lone Moon used his divine perception to confirm that there was no mistake. He kept the bag. Looking at the time, he should have sold a portion of them. That's why I sent Siyu to collect the rest of the payment. Father Nyo indeed. Those few air talismans that he sold were really sold? And it looked like they were not cheap. Lone Moon suddenly thought of something. He turned to the person beside him and said, I Ching, the array that I asked you to set up around the demonic chi to counter divine perception, have you done it? I Ching nodded. He poured a cup of tea for Shining. I set it up yesterday. That's good. This way he could let the first batch of people who bought the talismans enter the demonic chi to train. What's more, that area was isolated by an array. It would not allow immortals who entered to disturb the cultivation of the sect's disciples. It would also not expose the truth about the demonic chi. What's more, that array was taught to I Ching by Sun Shu. Ordinary people would not be able to break through it. Oh yes, has Yu Hong returned? Lone Moon suddenly thought of something else. Siyu shook her head. I did not meet senior sister on my way back. Lone Moon counted the time. Indeed, it was not time to return yet. He let Siyu rest and was about to discuss the matter of demonic chi when he realized that the 2 people beside him were already happily discussing the matter of additional meals. We have money. Chef, we can start preparing the afternoon tea. Master, what do you want to eat? Anything is fine, like shredded melon, diced pheasant, mixed jellyfish, asparagus, stir-fried winter bamboo shoots, slices of magnolia, mixed mandarin duck, braised fish head, and so on. Yes, master. No problem, master. Lone Moon, these 2 prodigals. Shandong immortal residents. What did you say? The corner of Sun Shu's mouth twitched. He looked at the woman in front of him, who looked very mature. For a moment he thought he had heard wrongly. Who told you to come here? I am the eldest disciple of Invincible Sect. Yu Hong stepped forward and cupped her fists again. Elder Lone Moon of my sect asked me to come. Sun Shu's expression darkened. Say that again. Why did he ask you to come here? Yu Hong's expression did not change at all. She repeated what she had just said unhurriedly. My elder said that young Emperor Sun is kind and generous. He promised that if our sect had any problems we could look for him. But our sect does not lack anything except for a batch of immortal weapons. Our sect is very sorry to let young Emperor work so hard. So, we will prepare the materials for refining weapons ourselves. Please, young Emperor, help us refine a few immortal weapons. You call this a few? Do you think I don't know how to count? Sun Shu pointed at the storage bags on the table and almost threw them back at her face. The materials for a few immortal weapons in your sect need to be stored in dozens of storage bags. Don't think I don't know. That's all the materials you dug up in the immortal territory. Thank you, young Emperor. Yu Hong bowed again. Get lost. Sun Shu glared at her. Indeed, this disciple of Invincible sect was as annoying as those three people. I'm not a blacksmith for free. If you want immortal weapons, find someone else. Yu Hong glanced at the storage bags on the table. Unexpectedly, she did not insist. She stepped forward and picked up the bag. Our elder said that if young Emperor is not free, there is no need to force yourself. Sun Shu looked at her in surprise. She was giving up so quickly? This was not like those little rascals' personality. But she added respectfully, our Invincible sect does not force others to do things against their will. We are not ungrateful people. Was she scolding him? Our elder also said that he is very grateful for young Emperor's help in the immortal territory. He will personally visit with our sect master to congratulate young Emperor on your reunion with your people. Was this a threat? This was definitely it. I will take my leave. Come back. Sun Shu felt the veins on his forehead throbbing. He gritted his teeth and snatched the bag of materials from her hands. Gritting his teeth, he said, I'll refine. Damn it. The point was that he was really being threatened. Anyone but Shening could do it. Thank you, young Emperor. Yu Hong hurriedly thanked him. Suddenly, she took out a booklet from her side and handed it over. My elder said that this is the list of immortal weapons that you need to refine. You just have to follow the numbers on it. Sun Shu subconsciously took it, but he didn't hold it properly. The other end of the booklet fell with a whoosh, and instantly pulled out a list that was a few meters long. On the list, there were thousands of weapons names written in tiny characters. Yu Hong, Sun Shu. He could vaguely hear a snapping sound in his head. A moment later, get lost. A roar reverberated through the entire Shandong immortal abode, spreading for hundreds of miles. Something strange had happened in the immortal realm recently. Exalted Immortal Shu's treasure tower would auction a few spirit transmission talismans every few months. It was said that through these talismans, one's divine perception could be sent to a holy land. Inside the holy land, one's divine perception would be able to improve rapidly, be it in terms of cultivation, immortal techniques, state of mind and divine perception. It did not matter what cultivation one had. This news caused an uproar among the immortals. Especially after the first batch of immortals who had entered the Holy Land came out. A few of them did indeed improve their cultivation. There were even immortals who had not improved in 10,000 years who broke through to the next realm. In an instant, the news spread throughout the entire country of Chongzhen. Everyone rushed to the treasure tower, hoping to get a spirit transmission talisman that could lead them to the Holy Land. Unfortunately, this talisman was very rare. Every few months or even half a year, only a few would be auctioned at the treasure tower. Moreover, the price would rise. Each talisman could be sold for hundreds of thousands. Millions of supreme-grade immortal stones were still hard to get. Because of this, the immortals all felt some resentment towards the treasure tower, who had the source of this talisman. But there was nothing they could do. There were also people who wanted to find the Holy Land, but no matter how hard they looked, they could not find its exact location. Apart from the people of Invincible sect, whose cultivation levels rose rapidly and whose hands were cramping from counting money. Chapter 146. Lone Moon touched the increasingly full sect storeroom and smiled like a professional profiteer. Even the shock of I Ching's breakthrough to Exalted Immortal faded a lot. He was in a rare good mood. He waved his hand and said, "From now on, I'll approve all your requests for supper." He thought that he would hear someone cheering, but there was only silence behind him. He frowned. "What's wrong? There's supper, why aren't you?" He stopped speaking and looked at the person beside him. Only then did he realize that Shening, who had been eating just now, had fallen asleep on the table. He could hear her light breathing. It can't be. This fellow could even fall asleep while eating now? She's improved. Lone Moon did not mind. He casually sent a voice transmission to I Ching in the kitchen, asking him to send her back to her room. He turned and went back to his business in the Holy Land. Recently, the disciples' cultivation levels had risen very quickly. Most of them were earth immortals with immortal bones. Even his cultivation level had risen to mystic immortal because he frequently went in and out of demonic chi. Sun Shu had also sent more than half of the immortal artifacts over. It was the busiest time. But he did not expect that Xining would not wake up for a few days after she fell asleep. The person who would always appear at the back hall punctually when it was mealtime had not appeared for a few days already. Even when he sent food into the room, she still did not respond at all. Will Master be all right? I Ching's brows were knitted together as he looked worriedly at Xin Ying's room. What can happen to her? Lone Moon rolled his eyes. He thought for a moment but still asked, how long has she been like this? 5 days. So long. Then did she say anything to you the day she fell asleep? Although Xining was lazy, she was not stupid. In fact, she was more sensitive than the average person. If she discovered something, she would definitely have left some hints. I Ching thought for a moment, then shook his head. No. She was no different from before that day. No, then she should be fine. Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief. You also know that although she is lazy, she is actually very smart. Something really happened, she would definitely say it. What's more, didn't she sleep for 2 days in a row before? But Sect Master has slept for too long this time. Yu Hong took a step forward and suggested hesitantly, why don't we try to wake Sect Master? I Ching and Lone Moon paused. It was a good idea, but who called? I Ching, Lone Moon, Yu Hong. A while later, cough. Well, maybe she was just too tired. Lone Moon laughed awkwardly. When we were in Yufeng Immortal Region, there were a few days where we didn't even have a day or night. It's normal for her to catch up on sleep. It should be, right? But more than half a year had passed since the incident in the Immortal Region. Although Yu Hong had some doubts, she could only accept this answer. The sect leader was so powerful, who could scheme against her? Perhaps he was just too sleepy? Only I Ching, who was at the side, clenched his fists and stared at the room for a while. As he walked towards the door, he suddenly reached out and pushed the door open. I Ching. Lone Moon was shocked. Do you want to die? He looked into the room. Strangely, the person lying on the bed had not been woken up. Only the sound of shallow breathing could be heard. She still looked like she was in a deep sleep. Master, it's time to eat. I Ching walked to the bed and pushed the person on the bed. Xining still did not respond. I made your favorite meat dishes. There's stir-fried crab, steamed dacha, assorted immortal rice, toad fish, braised ribbon fish, spicy wild chicken. He listed a whole bunch of dishes, but the person on the bed still did not respond. Even her breathing did not change. For no reason, panic surged in his heart. His head was buzzing. His hands by his side unconsciously trembled. Master? Lone Moon then realized that something was wrong. His expression changed. Something really happened. He hurriedly walked into the room and reminded I Ching, who was obviously panicking. Quick, check her pulse. I Ching paused, then reacted. He immediately grabbed one of the person's hands and checked her pulse. He separated a bit of immortal chi to check, but found nothing out of the ordinary. He hurriedly tried a few more times, but still did not find anything out of the ordinary. How is it? What's wrong with being a foodie? Lone Moon asked. I don't know. I Ching shook his head. How could it be? Let me see. Lone Moon snatched the person's hand and checked her pulse. His expression darkened. Indeed, there was nothing wrong. He gripped the jade flute in his hand impatiently. After thinking for a moment, he turned to the person behind him and said, Yu Hong, go to Shangdong Immortal Abode quickly. Perhaps it was because their cultivation levels were too low to check. Don't ask young Emperor Sun to come. Tell him it's urgent. Forget it. I'll go. He turned to leave, but I Ching beside him was one step ahead. I'll go. In a flash he flew out. Fortunately, because of the immortal artifact forging incident, Invincible Sect and Shangdong Immortal Abode had already set up a transportation array. In less than 5 breaths' time, I Ching had returned with Sun Shu. Hey. Why did you drag me here? Sun Shu, who was in the middle of refining, looked unhappy. I'm telling you, if this immortal sword is broken, it's not my. He was halfway through his sentence when he saw the person sleeping soundly on the bed. He sucked in a deep breath and widened his eyes. He struggled out of I Ching's grip and hid behind the door in a flash. Even his voice transmission was trembling. *CK, you two little bastards. Just say it if you want me dead. What happened to being friends? What did he mean by bringing him to the sleeping Xining? Did he think that he had not been beaten up enough? Don't worry, she's fine. Lonman's mouth twitched. How traumatized was he? Come over and take a look at her. What's wrong? Sun Shu looked at them suspiciously. He still did not dare to come out from behind the door. Lone Moon assured him again and again, and he even demonstrated by shouting a few times. Indeed, the person on the bed did not respond. Only then did Sun Shu move out at the speed of a tortoise. After taking a few deep breaths, he finally checked the pulse of the person on the bed. After a while, he retracted his hand and lowered his voice out of habit. Her breathing is stable. Her pulse is calm. Nothing out of the ordinary. She's just asleep. Why did you call me here? To train his courage? Master has been asleep for 5 days, I Ching explained. What? That can't be. Sun Shu paused. Then, as if recalling something, he pointed 2 fingers at Xin Ying's forehead and sent a sliver of immortal qi into her. He wanted to check her divine perception, but found that it was empty. Shocked, he said, could this be the soul detachment technique? That can't be right. Before the others could react, Sun Shu rebutted, her soul has not left her body. How could it be? What's the soul detachment technique? I Ching asked anxiously. The soul detachment technique is a type of soul-searching technique. Sun Shu explained, the soul-searching technique can extract a person's soul, but the soul detachment technique only allows the soul to leave the body. This technique is of little value. It can only make the person fall into a deep sleep. It does no actual harm to the body. That's why most immortals have never heard of it. I've only heard of it from the ancient memories I inherited. You're saying that Shining has been struck by this technique? Lone Moon asked. It's very likely. Sun Shu nodded. The strange thing is that her soul has not left her body. It's just that part of her divine perception is not in her body. But someone must have cast a spell on her. It looks like you're in trouble. Everyone's expressions darkened. I Ching's face darkened. He clenched his fists even tighter. Xin Ying's divine perception, who had been standing by the side, air. Did no one realize that she was just sleepwalking? Chapter 147. Shining looked left and right. Seeing that they could not see her at all, she sighed. Just as she was about to return to her body, she heard a strange sound. It was a very soft sound. She could not tell what it was. She paused and floated out of the door subconsciously. No one in the room felt anything. I Ching frowned and looked at Sun Shu anxiously. How can we wake Master up? Her divine perception has just left her body. It's not a big deal. Sun Shu thought for a moment and said, if we want her to wake up, we have to wait for her divine perception to return on its own or find the person who cast the spell. But divine perception can travel thousands of miles in an instant. We have to wait for her to return? At once, they thought of a certain someone's bad sense of direction. They exchanged glances and their expressions darkened. Cough. Let's talk about the person who cast the sorcery. Lone Moon pursed his lips. For the past 6 months, Shining has never stepped out of Invincible Sect. Of course, there were no outsiders either. Who could cast the sorcery on her? It may not be recent, Sun Shu said in a low voice. The soul-leaving spell is very simple. It does not need to be cast in person. It can be cast with talismans, tools, or anything with immortal qi. Think carefully. Before she returned, did she come into contact with any strangers or objects? Objects? The 2 of them turned to look at Sun Shu. Why are you looking at me? It's not the winter spirit tree. Sun Shu glared at the 2 of them. If I was the one who cast the spell, why would I come here? Besides, didn't you pluck the winter spirit tree yourselves? She did not touch anything except for a meal in Upper Capital. And I ate that meal too. Lone Moon really could not remember when she was cast. I Ching suddenly thought of something. No, there's something else. What? The winter spirit leaf. I said it wasn't me. Sun Shu panicked and was about to explain. I Ching took out a leaf that was beginning to turn yellow from the storage bag beside him. This was given to me by Immortal Emperor Guyu. Only Master and I have touched it. Sun Shu's expression darkened. He quickly gestured for I Ching to put the leaf on the table. He formed a few hand seals and sent them toward the leaf. There was a flash of light. The originally slightly yellowed leaf suddenly turned black from the center like a piece of paper that had been dripped with thick ink. In a moment, the entire leaf had turned black. Even the table was covered in a layer of black. This leaf has been poisoned with Brahma underworld poison. Sun Shu's expression changed. That was a type of poison that targeted the immortal physique. A person who was poisoned could only live for at most 4 months before this poison would directly enter their immortal bones. It was an extremely sinister type of poison. He hurriedly looked at I Ching. But you why? How could he be fine? Lone Moon was also shocked. That day when they left the Yufeng immortal domain, Immortal Emperor Guyu was clearly very angry that they did not get the 6 Unity Sword. But for the past 6 months he had not done anything to Invincible Sect. Originally he thought that he was holding back a big move, but he didn't expect that he had already planned everything. She had given I Ching this piece of Winter Spirit leaf from the very beginning because she didn't want him to live. What he didn't expect was that I Ching had a natural sword embodiment, which meant that he was immune to all poisons. It's him. He cast a spell on Master. I Ching clenched his fists, his veins popping out. His entire person seemed to be enveloped by anger. In an instant he condensed an immortal sword. Wait, I Ching, don't rash dash move. Before Lone Moon could finish speaking, I Ching's figure flashed and he was already flying out. Holy shit. Come back here. He immediately chased after him but found that I Ching was already gone. Lone Moon suddenly felt like cursing. He had been a brainless chef for so long that he almost forgot that I Ching was a person who hated evil. What's more, the person lying there was Shining. It would be strange if he didn't go crazy. What to do? What to do? After thinking about it, Lone Moon hurriedly entered the house, grabbed Sun Shu and chased after him. Quick, quick, quick. Let's go together. We have to get him back. He can't beat Guyu. What? Isn't that obvious? That's an immortal emperor. Not to mention how many immortals there are. Even if he can challenge those above his level, he's just an exalted immortal. How can he beat an immortal emperor who's 2 realms higher than him? Sun Shu paused and looked back at Lone Moon strangely. You don't know? Know what? To become a young emperor, one has to go to the Emperor Ascension stage. So, when he broke through, he suppressed his cultivation level to that of an exalted immortal. In fact, he's already a young emperor. What? With a sudden stop, Lone Moon almost fell off the sword. Motherf asterisk her. At that moment, at the foot of Invincible Sect's mountain, Shining looked in front of her. The demonic chi surrounded Invincible Sect. She wasn't sure if it was an illusion, but she felt that the demonic chi today seemed a little fatter. She instinctively took a step closer. The black fog in front of her suddenly shook, as if it was about to dissipate. Why are you shaking? Shining looked at the demonic chi speechless. She hadn't done anything yet. She walked in directly. The thick black fog seemed to have met its natural enemy. It immediately dispersed, revealing a clean space. Before she could react, the sound came again. Only then did she realize that it was a sobbing sound. He saw a small figure squatting under a withered tree not far away. His hands were hugging his knees, and his head was buried between his legs. His small body was trembling as if he was scared out of his wits. From time to time he would cry softly. A child? Where did she come from? No wonder the demonic chi was acting so strangely today. It had done something bad and was bullying a child. Hey child. She walked over and called out. The small figure trembled and then slowly raised her head, revealing a face full of black chi. This child looked like a ghost. Traces of black chi floated out of her face. It was so thick that she couldn't see her features clearly. The demonic chi around her was too thick. She didn't notice it at first, but on closer look, it wasn't just her face. Her entire body was emitting that black chi continuously. No wonder the demonic chi surrounded her. It was treating this child as its own kind. Big sister? The child stopped crying. She seemed to have just realized that the black chi around her was gone. Surprise flashed across her eyes. She looked at Shining timidly, then looked at her with vigilance and anticipation. Big sister, are you the ghost servant who came to take me away? What the hell? Little friend, why are you here? Only Invincible Sect disciples and Father Nyo's customers entered the demonic chi. This child was obviously not from either side. I don't know. She shook her head and looked at the black demonic chi around her. She trembled before continuing. They said, I'm a jinx who will only harm people, so they all hit me. It hurts. Xin Ying's expression darkened. What the hell? They said that it would be better if I died. In the end, I came here. She seemed to have thought of something. She looked at Shining curiously and said, Big sister, are you dead too? What nonsense is this little brat talking about? What a coincidence, me too. She pulled the corner of her mouth and gave her a cautious smile. She looked around fearfully. Is this where we go after death? But here, it's so cold. Shining then realized that this child's body was translucent. She was really a ghost. Were there ghosts in the immortal realm too? And she even floated here? How troublesome. She should leave this to Father Nyo. Hey little brat. Shining waved at her. Come here, I'll take you out. Really? She was stunned. She looked at Xinying's hand but still stood up obediently. Won't it not be cold outside? Yes. Xining nodded. She then took Xinying's hand. Thank you, big sister ghost servant. How did she know that she was a ghost servant? The corner of Xinying's mouth twitched. She was about to fly towards Invincible Sect when a white light flashed beneath her feet. An array was formed. Before she could see them clearly, the two ghosts had disappeared from where they had been standing. Chapter 148. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were already standing in an unfamiliar room. The room was not big, but there were 4 or 5 people standing there. They looked to be young and older women, and they were all busy. From time to time there were a few encouraging words such as, "Come on, it's coming out soon, work harder," and so on. It seemed to be a delivery room. Sister Ghost Servant, thank you for sending me off. The little ghost suddenly let go of her hand. She already said that she was not a ghost servant. Then I'll leave first. The little ghost smiled at her, and suddenly her figure flashed. She drilled into the stomach of the pregnant woman on the bed and disappeared. In the next moment, the sound of a baby crying filled the entire room. It's coming out, it's coming out. Xining finally reacted. Could this be reincarnation? She was just dreaming. Could it be that she had really become a ghost servant? Straight face, she looked around and floated out, only to find that she was in a thatched cottage, and there was a small courtyard outside. Further outside was a very wide field, and there were people working in it. Since she had nothing to do, Xining wandered around the small village. After walking around, she finally found a problem. That array seemed to have sent her directly to the mortal world. This distance was really not a normal distance. And she did not know if it was an illusion, but she felt that time seemed to pass very quickly here, as if it was changing every minute. The little ghost that came with her had turned from a baby to a little girl in just a few days, and she had grown to the height of her waist. But after reincarnation she had forgotten about the past, and like the others she could not see her. Even the original black aura around her had disappeared. After all, they had exchanged a few words, so Xining naturally paid more attention to her. But with one look she saw a life full of ups and downs. For the first time she knew that a person could be so unlucky. This little girl's life could be summed up with one word: unlucky. As long as she went out, she would either fall into a ditch or fall down a hill. No matter how flat the road was, she would step on water. No matter how small the forest was, she would encounter ferocious beasts. She would choke when drinking water, and she would fall while sitting in the house. Her life was like a pantomime, falling every 3 seconds, falling every 5 seconds. Moreover, this kind of bad luck spread. As long as someone was within 5 feet of her, they would definitely be implicated by her. They would either be pulled into the ditch or rolled down the slope. Even her relatives were the same. It was supposed to be a good year, but only her family had no harvest. Even though he lived in the innermost part of the village, he was visited by thieves every month. If it rained, it would flood her house. If a volcano erupted, it would burn her house. If it collapsed, it would bury her house. She was like a walking plague, bringing bad luck wherever she went. Xining glanced at the little girl at the side, who was standing on her tiptoes and stretching out her little hand, desperately trying to reach the fruit on the tree. Xining sighed. What an unlucky child. Thus, she reached out her hand and raised the fruit that she could only touch with her fingertips a little higher. For all. Hee, I just can't reach it. The little girl's originally red face turned pale instantly. Looking at the fruit that she had no hope of reaching, she pouted and her eyes became misty. She looked like she was about to cry. This jinx is here again. Suddenly, a young male voice came from behind her. The little girl trembled in fear and turned around in horror. She saw a little fatty running out from behind her. Compared to her messy hair and dirty face, he was dressed very neatly. He was pouting and pointing angrily at the little girl. He turned around and shouted a few words behind him. Instantly, a few children of his age ran over from the side path. They looked at the little girl under the tree maliciously. He started to criticize her with every word. My mother said that she's a jinx, a monster. She's the best at harming people. No wonder her parents don't want her anymore. I saw it just now. She wanted to steal the fruit on the tree. She won't harm the fruit trees too, will she? What if they don't bear any fruit in the future? Hit her. We can't let her harm the fruit trees. That's right, the fruit is ours. Hit her. The more they talked, the angrier they became. They rushed towards the little girl. No, no, I didn't. She was even more afraid now. She could no longer hold back her tears. She took a few steps back. She wanted to escape, but she tripped over a tree root and fell to the ground. Stop her. Don't let her get away. The few children rushed over immediately. Some even bent down to pick up the stones on the ground. They were about to throw them at the little girl. Xining frowned and silently stretched out a leg. The leader, the little fatty, suddenly fell forward and landed heavily on the ground. A bump the size of a fist appeared on his head. The little fatty was stunned for a moment. Perhaps it was because of the pain, but he let out a loud cry. The others were shocked. They looked at the little girl who was still on the ground in front of them, and then at the little fatty. It's her. It must be her. She's harming people again. Beat her to. Bam. Another child, who wanted to rush forward, tripped and fell to the ground as well. Following that, there were a few more bangs. The children who surrounded them all fell into a ball. Monster. Only then did the few of them realize the danger. They did not dare to rush forward anymore. As they retreated, they looked at the little girl in fear. She really is a monster. Run, run. In the blink of an eye, the few of them who were initially aggressive ran away. Bullying children was indeed addictive. The unlucky little girl finally got up. She looked around blankly. She seemed to have thought of something. Then she turned and limped back. Xining didn't think much of it. She didn't expect the little girl to sneak back to this remote tree that night. She took out half a sweet potato from somewhere and placed it on the ground. She then knelt down respectfully under the tree. You're an immortal, aren't you? She lowered her voice and said carefully to her surroundings, I heard from the big fatty's mother next door that as long as you are obedient, the immortal will protect you. The one who protected me in the day must be an immortal, right? She looked around excitedly as if she was looking for something. However, she did not find anything. She kowtowed 3 times obediently. Thank you, immortal. I will come often to worship you. So. Her voice deepened. She became even more nervous. After a while, she squeezed out a sentence. Can you always protect me? After saying that, she kowtowed 3 more times, causing the stones on the ground to reverberate. I will be very obedient, very obedient. She waited quietly for a while. Seeing that there was still nothing out of the ordinary, she left reluctantly. Xining, she looked at the half a sweet potato left on the ground. That's why she hated children. But this child seemed to be addicted to giving things. What's more, there was no one else in her house. Every night she would come to the tree. Sometimes she would put half a sweet potato. Sometimes she would put half a radish or a bunch of unknown flowers. This night was even weirder. She brought a rock that was as tall as her calf. She even used a knife to carve something on it. Immortal. I heard from others that you have to write your name when worshipping immortals. Otherwise, you won't be able to receive them. It wasn't easy for me to catch a fish. I learned these words from Brother Dejun. In the future, you can receive my offerings. With that said, she put down a bunch of flowers and kowtowed 3 more times. Xining then saw the words written on the rock. Immortal who protected me. She had set up a tombstone for her. Motherf asterisk her. The child seemed to want to say something more. Suddenly the ground shook. The originally dark sky suddenly shone with thousands of rays of light. The entire sky was bright. Something fell from the sky. With a loud bang, it landed on the top of a mountain not far away. What the hell? Chapter 149. Immortal. Are you here? It must be. The child beside her was overjoyed. He stood up immediately and turned to run towards the top of the mountain. Xining frowned and looked at the top of the mountain. This light was immortal chi? Just as she was about to go over to take a look, she saw the stone tablet on the ground. She silently took a step back and stepped on it. With a crack, the stone tablet shattered into millions of pieces. That felt good. Satisfied, she floated over to the stone tablet. The little girl ran very quickly towards the top of the mountain. At this time, there was already a huge crater on the top of the mountain. More than half of the mountain had been flattened and dust was flying everywhere. Even half of the fields below had been destroyed. All the villagers were running away. Only that little figure was going against the flow. She finally climbed to the top of the mountain, panting heavily. But in front of her, there were all kinds of colorful lights and dust everywhere. She could not see the situation at all. There was silence all around. Only then did she start to feel nervous. In the end, her desire to see the immortal prevailed. She took a deep breath and walked in. Weakly she called out, Immortal? Immortal? Roar. As soon as she finished speaking, there was an angry roar. Suddenly, a huge figure appeared in front of her. A huge bloody mouth suddenly opened and a huge bloody aura rushed towards her. Ah! Only then did the little girl know fear. She cried out in shock. Her legs turned to jelly and she fell to the ground. She even forgot to run for her life. Only then did she see clearly that in front of her was a huge beast as tall as a mountain. It looked very ferocious and the sharp teeth in its mouth were even taller than her. It was walking towards her step by step. With every step it took, the ground shook. Suddenly, it jumped up and opened its mouth to bite her. The little girl was completely frightened. She froze on the spot and looked at the huge beast in front of her in horror. No, this was not an immortal. Just as she was about to be swallowed by it, the huge beast's body suddenly tilted. It seemed to have stepped on something. Its huge claws slipped and it fell with a crash. It directly rolled into the huge crater below. There was a loud poof and a huge cloud of dust was kicked up. Roar! Before the giant beast could even struggle, another huge figure suddenly took the opportunity to pounce towards the pit. With a cry, two sharp claws slashed down, and the sound of flapping wings could be heard. A sudden gust of wind blew away the dust in the surroundings, revealing the two giant beasts that were entangled in battle. It was a large bird covered in flames, and beneath it was a four-legged beast. It had the head of a leopard, the tail of a snake, and the claws of an eagle. Its entire body was covered in scales, and it had sharp teeth that gleamed with a cold light. It seemed to be injured. Large pieces of scales had fallen off its body, and it was trampled to the ground by the firebird, unable to move. Ha ha ha, Biaoting, you dare to call yourself a celestial the arch with your puny cultivation level? I'm dying of laughter. The firebird let out a series of mockery. I think you'd better go back to Wentian Cave and not come out to embarrass yourself. Qingzhe continent will belong to me. Crow. The giant beast struggled a few times, but no matter how hard it tried, it couldn't get rid of the other party's claws. It could only let out a series of low growls. You sanctimonious stinky bird, today I fell into your hands because of my negligence. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Humph. The firebird used its wings to slap the other party, but it did not continue to attack. Instead it took a few steps back. Immortal light flashed around it, and it turned into a man in a green robe. He glared coldly at the giant beast on the ground. Do you think I'm like those brainless beasts? I have no enmity with you, no enmity with you. Why did you suddenly want to destroy my Phoenix Palace? Pui. To think that you're a celestial the arch. If you hadn't shamelessly stolen my 6 fire pearl, I wouldn't even want to go to your stupid place. Biao Ting gritted his teeth. You're heartless and I'm unjust. Destroying your nest is a small matter. Who stole your 6 fire pearl? Crow's expression turned cold. I don't care about that stupid pearl of yours. Don't try to deny it. Biao Ting was even more furious. You flying beasts have always liked to collect eye-catching things. Do you think you lack pearls in your stupid nest? What's more, among the 10 celestial thearchs, only you are fire elemental. If you didn't steal it, who else could it be? You dared to do it, but you don't dare to admit it. If you don't kill me this time, I will definitely make you pay next time. Forget it if you don't believe me. I didn't take your pearl anyway. Crow was getting angry. Do whatever you want. You're just a loser. Do you think I'm afraid of you? With that said, he plucked a strand of whiskers from the side of his mouth. Biao Ting was furious, but he did not lunge forward because of his injuries. In a flash, he transformed into a black-robed man. He glared angrily at the other party. Don't think that I can't beat you. If not for the fact that someone got in the way today and distracted me, I wouldn't have. He seemed to have thought of something. He turned to glare at the little girl sitting on the ground not far away. His eyes widened and he was instantly enraged. He looked like he was going to eat her up. It's all this despicable mortal's fault. The little girl trembled. She finally remembered to escape. She scrambled to her feet, but it was too late. Biao Ting reached out a hand. Instantly, a huge amount of immortal qi attacked the other party. Then he tightened his grip. The little figure flew into the air and flew uncontrollably into his hand. Biao Ting grabbed the child by the neck. The little girl struggled with all her might, but she could not even touch his sleeve. How could a mortal hurt someone from the immortal world? Moreover, she was just a child. Her heart was filled with fear. Tears flowed out of her eyes. She used all her strength to squeeze out a few words. Divine. Divine Immortal, please protect me, Divine Immortal? Hearing her words, Biao Ting laughed coldly. I'm the Divine Immortal you speak of. The little girl was stunned. She looked like she was about to die. Suddenly, her eyes widened and she glared at him. She did not know where she got the strength from, but she began to kick and hit him. No, you're not. Liar. Her divine immortal was not like this. It wasn't. Humph, you're just an ant. Biao Ting ignored her struggles. He tightened his grip and was about to strangle her to death. Wait. The firebird Blackbird suddenly shouted and grabbed his hand. What, you still want to fight me? Biao Ting looked at him warily and said mockingly, don't tell me you really want to be a divine immortal and save this mortal? Don't forget, although you've been an immortal for a long time, you're still a demon. This child? Crow ignored him. Instead, he looked at the child in his hand carefully. He seemed to have discovered something and his eyes narrowed. Biao Ting hesitated. He also sensed that something was amiss. He loosened his grip and let the child fall to the ground. She coughed violently as if she was going to faint the next moment. Biao Ting did not care. He directed a bit of immortal qi and tapped it on the child's forehead. The sudden intrusion of immortal qi caused the little girl to scream again. Her entire body was in so much pain that she curled up into a ball. She has a purine body. Biao Ting's face flashed with surprise. He chuckled. This is a good material for purifying deviant flames. With that said, he looked at Crow with some wariness. Don't tell me you want it too. What? Do you think you can snatch it from me in your current state? Crow laughed coldly. Biao Ting was stumped. The hatred on his face deepened, but he could only grit his teeth and bear with it. He lowered his head and glared at the child on the ground. Crow picked up the child in front of Biao Ting. Although this mortal did not have an immortal bone and could not withstand many deviant flames, she was still a rare material and could not be wasted. He looked up at the realm gate that was about to close. Biao Ting, I'll let you off this time. If you dare to cause trouble in my Phoenix Palace again, don't blame me for being rude. With that said, he flew towards the realm gate in the sky. Biao Ting gritted his teeth in anger, but he had no choice but to bear with it. He took a deep breath and flew up as well. Only the little girl who had been suddenly picked up looked terrified. Tears flowed uncontrollably as she struggled with all her might. No, let go of me. Help, immortal. I have an immortal protecting me. I have an immortal. Do you hear me? Stop arguing. Blackbird frowned impatiently. If you obediently become my material, you can live for a few more days. I am an immortal. In the 3 realms, no one can save you from what I, Crow, have set my eyes on. Is that so? Just as he finished speaking, a lazy voice sounded beside him. Strangely, he trembled. Chapter 150. Before Blackbird could react, he felt a heavy weight on his leg. A gust of wind blew past his ears, and he was pulled down by a huge force. He crashed into Biao Ting, who was flying up from below. With a loud crash, the two of them fell back into the huge pit. This time the whole mountain collapsed. Who's there? Blackbird roared. His body flashed red and he turned into his original form. He was a huge bird covered in flames. He looked up angrily, but he saw nothing. In the air, only the child that was still in her hand was slowly floating down from the clouds. Divine? Immortal? The little girl was stunned. She was overjoyed and looked around excitedly. Immortal, you're here, aren't you? You're here to protect me again? I knew worshipping you would be useful. Shining, who had finally found her way up, not to mention that she could still be friends with those worshippers. Immortal, why, can't I see you? I forgot to remind you. Shining carried the child to an empty space at the side and said slowly, I hate vegetables. The child was stunned. His little face frowned and he looked aggrieved. Don't give me any more in the future, but... Shining turned to look at the bird and beast. The 2 little animals you gave me are not bad. Do you know how to roast meat? The child, the little animal asterisk 2. For some reason, Blackbird felt a chill run down his spine. Unfortunately, no matter how much he released his divine perception, he could not see the person speaking. He could only open his mouth and spit out a stream of true life flames in the direction of the little girl. Who are you? How dare you speak so arrogantly? Just as he was about to spit out a stream of flames, he felt a sharp pain on his head. His open mouth seemed to be pressed down by something and was forced to close it. The true life flames that he was about to spit out had already taken shape, but it was blocked in his mouth. He could not go in or out. The flames rebounded and burned all the way from his mouth to his organs. Yet he could not open his mouth to cry out in pain. He could only roll on the ground, whimpering. He tried to use all the immortal qi in his body to struggle, but found that his mouth was locked in place. He could not move an inch. In the next moment, the ground beneath him was empty, and his huge figure was instantly lifted up by something. Before it could react, a gust of wind blew past its ears, and with a bang, it crashed into the ground again. It wasn't over yet. Its entire body had completely lost control. It was lifted up and smashed down again and again, lifted up and smashed down again and again, lifted up and smashed down again. The entire world reverberated with the sounds of smashing. Blackbird, who felt like a hammer, and Biao Ting, who was being hammered, they were simply powerless to resist. The key was that from the beginning to the end, they couldn't see the person who made the move. It was too terrifying. Who was it? A minute later, the entire hall was silent. A certain someone suddenly thought of a problem. Isn't it necessary to pluck the feathers first before roasting the meat? The Heavenly Emperor duo who played dead is identical. No. Immortal World, Upper Capital City. The emperors of the 7 countries gathered at the Palace of War Cessation. Immortal Emperor Guyu sat on the main seat, while the other emperors sat in 2 rows below him. There were 3 immortal emperors and 4 young emperors. Guyu scanned the group of people coolly. His eyes narrowed as he said casually, why isn't young Emperor Sun Shu here? Exalted Emperor Gu, you know that young Emperor Sun has always been a loner. The immortal emperor sitting on the right snorted coldly. He doesn't give face to anyone. In previous years, when Exalted Emperor invited us to the War Cessation Immortal Gathering, didn't he always turn up? That's right. Another young emperor sitting below him was also full of disdain, as if he couldn't stand Sun Shu's lack of respect. Young Emperor Sun is obviously a young emperor, but unlike us he can't build a country and become an emperor. Why does he have to hole up in his tiny immortal abode and pretend that he doesn't care about worldly affairs? This is an immortal gathering for the emperors of the various countries. It doesn't matter if he doesn't turn up. Sigh. Guyu sighed and said worriedly, everyone, it seems like young Emperor Sun has misunderstood that I tried to stop him at the Lofty River a while ago. That's why he didn't turn up. Lofty River. Everyone was shocked. They were all immortals who had lived for tens of thousands of years, so they immediately understood the meaning behind his words. They all looked at him and asked, Exalted Emperor, what do you mean? This matter was just a misunderstanding. Guyu's eyes flashed and he sighed again. Everyone knows that although I'm not a sword immortal, I often send people from my sect to Yufeng Immortal Abode to train. Although they say they're searching for a sword, their main purpose is to train their subordinates. Coincidentally, one of the people I sent earlier met young Emperor in the immortal domain. What's more, that sword immortal accidentally found a divine artifact, which young Emperor obtained. I was supposed to receive the sword immortal, but I didn't expect to meet young Emperor Sun at the Lofty River. He thought that I was trying to steal the sword, so there was a misunderstanding. A divine artifact, and a sword at that. Everyone looked at each other and seemed to have thought of something at the same time. They asked anxiously, Exalted Emperor Guyu, the divine artifact that you found is... That's right, the 6-joint sword. Guyu nodded. What? The few of them were in an uproar. It's really the 6-joint sword? I didn't expect the legends to be true. That's a divine artifact that can split open the heavens. Young Emperor Sun is too stingy. He obtained such a divine artifact without saying a word. That's right. He even misunderstood that Exalted Emperor Guyu was trying to steal his sword. I bet he stole the sword from someone else. Isn't it said that only celestial emperors have the right to wield divine artifacts? He's just a young emperor. What right does he have to wield the 6-joint sword? He's a sword immortal, and now he has a divine artifact. Why would he care about us? The more they spoke, the more outrageous and furious they became. It was as if Sun Shu had really done something unforgivable. They looked like they were gathering to demand justice. Guyu's expression darkened. He had purposely revealed the news. He had expected this outcome. Who wouldn't want a divine artifact like that? So what if he had found the 6-joint sword? He was only capable if he could protect it. With such a divine artifact in his hands, how could others not covet it? If he couldn't have it, he naturally wouldn't want others to have it. Besides, I think we should report this to the Celestial Emperor. Finally, an immortal emperor suggested. The 6-joint sword is no ordinary divine artifact. Perhaps the key to ascending from the immortal realm lies in this sword. This sword is indeed not suitable for young Emperor Sun to keep. That's right. This is a serious matter. We should let Celestial Emperor Jianghu make the final decision. Everyone agreed. All the emperors are right. Guyu nodded in agreement. But I heard that the Celestial Emperor has already gone into seclusion. The immortal Rainbow Palace has been closed to visitors for thousands of years. None of the immortals who have gone to the heavens beyond heaven have seen the Celestial Emperor. How should we report this? Everyone frowned at the thought. After a moment of silence, one of the immortal emperors spoke. It's not good to disturb the Celestial Emperor's cultivation. But this was no small matter. If the other Celestial Emperors heard about it, it would be difficult for them not to covet it. If our Fengtsang continent misses out on this sword, it will be our fault. Why don't? That person looked at the crowd and continued, the 8 of us go to the heavens beyond heaven and request to see the Celestial Emperor to report this matter. I'm sure he will meet us. Everyone nodded in agreement. Guyu's heart was filled with satisfaction. Everything was progressing in the direction he had planned. The immortal Rainbow Palace had been closed for thousands of years. He had long guessed that something was amiss. Recently, he received news that Celestial Emperor Jianghu was not even in the palace. He might not even be in the heavens beyond heaven. In the immortal realm, the heavens beyond heaven had the densest immortal qi. It was impossible for a Celestial Emperor to leave the heavens beyond heaven. If Jianghu was not there, there was only one possibility. Something had happened to him. As long as this group of people went to the immortal Rainbow Palace, they would discover this. Fengtsang continent no longer had a Celestial Emperor. Naturally, they had to support someone to ascend. He had the highest cultivation level among all the countries. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It was a chance for him to rise to the top. As long as he went up, he would not allow Jianghu to return to his previous position. He had planned this for so long. Success or failure depended on this one move. He could not afford to make any mistakes. He was excited. He took a deep breath to calm himself down. He stood up and said in a low voice, if that's the case, let's, bam. Before he could finish his words, the entire hall suddenly shook, and a big hole appeared on the top of his head with a loud bang. The isolation formation in the hall was broken, and a white figure suddenly appeared in the hall. He pointed the long sword in his hand at the person of the first seat, and said word by word, release my master sorcery or I will kill you. Chapter 151. It's you. Guyu exclaimed. He stared at I Ching in disbelief. He was still alive. The poison on the winter spirit leaf could only last for 4 months. But he did not seem to be poisoned at all. How could this be? Guyu panicked, but considering the people present, he did not show it. On the other hand, the other people in the room glared angrily at the person in the middle after their initial shock. What a shameless boast. Where did this little immortal come from? How dare he act so presumptuously in front of the exalted emperors? Who are you? How dare you barge into the palace of war cessation? A mere exalted immortal dares to challenge exalted Emperor Gu? I want to see what you're capable of. Exalted Emperor Guyu, why don't I help you deal with this disrespectful junior? Exalted emperors. Guyu was overjoyed. He had already calmed down. So what if this person had discovered the poison on the winter spirit leaf? Who would believe a mere immortal like him? I believe this fellow immortal has some misunderstandings about me. Why don't we peacefully? Before he could finish, I Ching's figure flashed and a huge wave of sword chi flew towards him. It was so overwhelming that even he had to turn and dodge. His figure flashed as he left the seat of honor. Looking back, he saw that I Ching had cleaved a huge hole in the main hall. Half of it had collapsed. Even the country emperors had to fly out of the main hall on their swords. Guyu's eyes widened in shock. The immortal palace was covered in arrays and the materials used to construct it were not ordinary. Yet, he had managed to destroy half of the palace with a single strike of his sword. Was he really an exalted immortal? His heart sank as an inexplicable sense of foreboding welled up in his heart. Fellow immortal I Ching, let's talk this out. What? Wait you. Before he could finish, I Ching swung the sword in his hand. The second strike was already upon him. The sharp sword chi once again filled the entire immortal palace. The other party had no choice but to stop talking and fight with all his might. If there was one thing he had learned from his masters many years, it was this. Who would argue with you when you can fight? Cripple him first. Come and fight. At that moment, the entire palace of war cessation was filled with the glow of spells and terrifying sword chi. The other monarchs looked at the two of them who started fighting without saying a word. After all, they were invited here. It would be inexcusable if they did not help. Hence, the 7 of them had no choice but to join the battle. The deafening noises and the radiance of the spell became even more intense, so bright that people couldn't open their eyes. 3 hours later, 1,000 miles away. Lone Moon almost flew day and night to Jianghu. He was afraid that a certain someone would act rashly and create a mess that he could not fix. He was anxious and wanted to curse. However, I Ching usually looked dull, but when he was excited he ran very fast. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't catch up. On top of that, there was no teleportation formation to Xanadu. He had to fly by himself for transportation. Fellow immortal Lone Moon, don't worry too much. Given I Ching's cultivation level, he won't get into trouble so easily. Compared to Lone Moon, Sun Shu was much more relaxed. Given I Ching's cultivation level, nothing will happen to him so easily. He had been wanting to kill Guyu for a long time, but he had never found a good reason to do so. Now that someone else had taken over the job, he was naturally happy to see it happen. I hope so. Lone Moon was still worried. He had a bad feeling about this. Suddenly he noticed the immortals flying past him. He frowned. Why are there so many immortals leaving the city? Each of them seemed to be in a hurry, as if they were running away from something. Their numbers kept increasing. It looked like they were flying from Jianghu. Sun Shu also noticed the immortals flying past him. Looking around, he stepped forward to stop a familiar immortal. What's going on? What's wrong with you guys? Yeah, Emperor Sun. The immortal paused and bowed to Sun Shu. Something happened in Jianghu. Someone broke into the Palace of War Cessation and they're fighting there. To avoid being implicated, the immortals left the city. Sun Shu was overjoyed. It looked like I Ching was already beating up that despicable Guyu. Not bad. He broke into the immortal palace so quickly. He was indeed a sword immortal. But, even if Guyu is fighting someone in Jianghu, you don't have to run out of the city, do you? Jianghu was an immortal city after all. It had more than one or two defensive arrays. Even if it was a battle between immortal emperors, the battle would at most be within the boundaries of the Palace of War Cessation. It would not affect the entire immortal city. Why would they run so far away? No. There's more than one emperor. What? Sun Shu did not understand. Suddenly there was a loud crash in front of them. Something was attacking them from thousands of miles away. It spread in all directions. They heard a few rustling sounds as it brushed past their faces. The two of them subconsciously conjured a seal and set up a defensive array. Only then did they manage to block the overwhelming immortal pressure. The immortal who was stopped by Sun Shu turned pale and continued to fly into the distance. Sun Shu sensed carefully and realized that it was Sword Chi. So far away. Releasing his divine perception, he saw that half the sky in the direction of Jianghu had been swallowed up by different colored lights. He could also faintly sense dozens of immortal auras. Apart from I Ching and Guyu, there was also... What's going on? Lone Moon's expression darkened. Sun Shu paused, then suddenly remembered something. He lowered his head and calculated. His face turned pale. I actually forgot that today is the day of the Jianghu Immortal Gathering. Right now, apart from Guyu, there are also the emperors of various countries in Jianghu. There are a total of 8 immortal lords who have ascended to become emperors. Damn. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lone Moon panicked. He turned around and used the fastest speed he could muster to activate the immortal sword beneath him. He sped towards Jianghu, but no matter how fast he flew, it still took him more than 10 minutes to reach Jianghu. He was shocked by the scene in front of him. The once beautiful and majestic immortal city in the sky was gone. In front of him was a pile of rubble. Broken walls were everywhere, floating in the air like meteorites. Even the huge city gate had been split into 2, leaving only half of it floating in the air. Traces of sword chi and immortal spells could be seen everywhere in the city. There was not a single building left intact. There was not a single immortal in the city. The light from the spells had also disappeared. It was obvious that the battle was over. Where was he? Lone Moon panicked and flew directly towards the Jianghu Palace. He released his divine perception and found I Ching among the rubble. He saw that he was standing on a collapsed wall. His originally white robes had been dyed red. He was covered in blood. If not for the familiar aura, he would not have recognized that it was I Ching. In his hand was a sword that was faintly discernible, formed by the condensation of immortal chi. His feet were stepping on a pile of flesh and blood. He was asking something word by word, but his voice was as cold as ice. There were several corpses lying around him. Some were buried in the grass, some were hanging from trees, and some were crushed by rocks so that only half their heads remained. Their auras were very weak. If he did not release his divine perception, he would not have been able to detect them. Lone Moon, Sun Shu, he had won the fight. 1 against 8. And they were all immortal level experts. What kind of freaking pervert are you? Chapter 152. The corner of Loneman's mouth twitched. He suddenly felt the urge to turn around and leave. He had had enough of being controlled by the cheat. He took a few deep breaths to regain his composure. He flew down and landed beside the bloody cheat. "Hey chef. Are you still alive?" Lone Moon was just about to speak when he heard Fang Jing say, "Tell me, how do you undo my master's spell?" Guyu, who was lying on the ground in a terrible state, did not answer. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood like a fountain. "I'll ask you again. How do you undo it?" I Ching's foot landed on Guyu's body, and Guyu spat out even more blood. The corner of Loneman's mouth twitched. "Guyu was injured so badly, yet you were still trying to extort a confession. You were indeed a cheat. More importantly, King moved your foot away and let him speak. You've already crushed his chest, so how is he supposed to reply?" Indeed, in the next moment, Guyu's head tilted to the side and he fainted. I Ching calmed down. Lone Moon took a step forward and said, "If you continue like this, he'll really die. We won't be able to get any answers then." "But master." I Ching looked at Sun Shu anxiously. "There's no point in panicking. Besides, didn't Sun Shu say that the spell does not harm his body?" Lone Moon continued. "Even if you kill him now, there's no use." I Ching paused and retracted his foot from Guyu's body. Guyu's body, which had been standing upright, swayed and looked like it was about to collapse. "Be careful." Sun Shu reached out to help Guyu up. He checked Guyu's meridians and his eyes widened. You're still alive." Lone Moon was shocked and immediately grabbed the meridian of his other hand. Only then did he realize that all the meridians in his body were already in a mess. The immortal chi in his body was also completely used up. His dantian was smashed into pieces and his immortal bones were broken in several places. Any later and he would not even have been able to pick up a spatula. Instead of resting, Guyu was trying to extort a confession out of him. He was crazy. "Do you have a king brain?" Lone Moon felt his anger explode. He pointed at Guyu and scolded, "If you can't do it, just retreat, understand? Is there anyone like you who goes all out in a fight? You should learn from Xin Ying's tendency to get into trouble. Why don't you learn from her shameless ways?" I Ching turned around instantly and glared at him with an icy glare. While suppressing the surging chi and blood, he gritted his teeth and said, "Don't slander master." *CK. Could this retarded fan get better? He took a deep breath, suppressed his anger and said, "If you don't want to die, hurry up and adjust your breathing." He sat down cross-legged, but his eyes were looking at the bloody mess that had completely stopped moving. "Don't worry. He's already in this state. He can't run away." Only then did he close his eyes and begin to regulate his breathing. I Ching's injuries were indeed too serious this time. Although it wasn't enough to damage his foundation, he was fighting against immortal emperor-level immortals after all. What's more, he was fighting against 8 immortal emperors at once. He could only say that it was a miracle that he was still alive. Before his immortal bones recovered, he would not be able to use his sword chi. I Ching and Sun Shu set up several array formations around him. The two of them worked together and spent a whole 6 hours before they barely managed to repair most of I Ching's meridians. Lone Moon picked up the still unconscious Guyu. "Let's go back first. We'll ask him how to wake Shining up when he wakes up." Just as he was about to fly on his sword, the transmission amulet beside him suddenly lit up. He subconsciously took it out and sent a bit of immortal chi into it. Instantly, Yu Hong's voice sounded in his head. He froze. "Did something happen in the sect?" Sun Shu asked curiously. "No." Lone Moon's expression was a little complicated. He looked down at the person in his hands. Yu Hong said, "Shining is awake." The next moment there was a whoosh and I Ching had disappeared. Sun Shu, Lone Moon, Shining suddenly remembered that she was a floater and could not eat, so she gave up on the barbecue. Thinking about how long she had been out, it was time to go back and eat. Just as she was about to float, the little girl beside her seemed to sense something and began to panic. "Divine Immortal, are you leaving?" She ran straight over but tripped over a withered branch on the ground. Her running turned into a roll and with a grunt she rolled to the bottom of a tree. A bloody gash appeared on her face. But she did not seem to care. She looked directly at the trembling bird on the ground and said, "Don't you want to protect me anymore?" "I'll be very obedient." Xin Ying's mouth twitched. Was this little imp pestering her? How troublesome. If she sneaked away she wouldn't be discovered, right? But the little girl burst into tears. Divine Immortal, don't leave me, all right? Everyone doesn't like me. Father and mother are gone, I only have you. Don't leave me, alright? Divine Immortal, Divine Immortal. There was no response for a long time. The little girl became even more flustered. She wandered around but could not find the person she was looking for. Mustering her courage, she directly climbed onto the bird's body, which had long been extinguished. Clattering noisily, she searched everywhere. As she stepped on it, she cried out with tears in her eyes, Divine Immortal, Divine Immortal. Don't go, sob, sob, sob. Don't leave me. Thinking that she was protected by the exalted God, Wu Hong calmly pretended to be dead at first. A few kicks from a mortal would not cause him much harm, until she stepped on a certain unspeakable part. Roar! Wu Hong's body exploded instantly, and he flipped the little girl off. He immediately transformed back into human form, but with his legs crossed, he clutched his midsection and curled up like a shrimp. Instantly enraged, he glared at the little girl at the side. You little imp, you're really what? Shining suddenly interrupted. Blackbird shuddered. Only then did he remember the current situation. His face, which had just turned red, instantly turned pale. His mouth twitched violently a few times before he smiled stiffly and said, Really, kind, good and lovable. That hurt so much. Why was he so unlucky? If not for the fact that his protective immortal chi had been broken, and his immortal bones had been broken, how could he have been injured by a mortal in that kind of place? Sob, 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 sob. He was tainted by a mortal. He felt as if his entire demon life was no longer pure. Divine Immortal. The little girl climbed up with a face full of joy. She opened her arms and pounced towards the right, as if she wanted to hug something. I knew you would come back. Seeing that the little girl was about to pounce into the pit, Xinying's mouth twitched. Finally, she could not help but reach out and pull the little girl back. I'm here. Where should she go? Divine Immortal? Only then did she stop and turn to the left. It's this way. Xinying turned the little girl around. Little shorty, do you really want to follow me? Yes, yes, yes. The little girl sniffled and nodded vigorously. Then you won't be able to come back in the future and it will be very hard. I'm not afraid. Her little fists were clenched tightly, her expression determined. AI so troublesome. She turned to look at the foot of the mountain, at the small mountain village that had been buried in a large piece of land. Thinking of a certain person's attribute of bringing misfortune, she frowned. She hoped that Father Nyo would not go berserk. Hey, that bird. She turned to look at the green-robed man beside her. The bird is here. Blackbird raised a hand weakly. And the one who is pretending to be dead. She turned to look at the bottom of the pit. The huge black beast at the bottom of the pit trembled and had no choice but to turn back into human form with tears in its eyes. Exalted, exalted, exalted goddess, do you have any orders? The little girl's health is not good. It's not convenient for me to bring her back to the immortal realm. Both of you send this little shorty safely to Chu Shuang City's invincible sect. She glanced at the two of them. I want to see her in 3 days, otherwise, haha. Although they could not see each other, the two of them trembled subconsciously and immediately replied in unison, Yes, exalted goddess. No problem, exalted goddess. Xinying then closed her eyes and disappeared from where she stood. Exalted goddess? Exalted goddess? Blackbird called out a few times but there was no response. Only then did he realize that Xinying had left and his face fell. Exalted goddess, you still haven't told us which continent in the immortal realm Chu Shuang City is in. Degree. Chapter 153. 5 days later, Xinying had just finished the lunch made by the rainbow group of girls and was poking at the dessert on the table. Although the taste was not as good as chef's, overall it was not bad. Just as she was wondering if she should ask them to make more, a figure landed in front of her. Master. Hey chef. Xinying was delighted. She moved the dessert on the table to the side and pretended that she had not eaten. You're back. You're all right? I Ching looked straight at the person in front of the table, not daring to blink. She hesitated. What could I have? Before she could finish, the other party rushed over like the wind. She felt her hands tighten and in the next moment she fell into his arms. A little stuffy. Just as she was about to push him away, she heard a low voice that sounded like he was about to cry. You're all right? That's great. That's great. What's wrong? Chef. Before she could ask, the person who was hugging her just now suddenly went limp and slid down. Hey, are you all right? She caught him and found that he had already fainted. Only then did she notice that he was actually covered in blood and had wounds all over his body. It was not just a little bit of a mess. Xining frowned. Why was it that every time she saw Chef after a period of time, he would turn into such a wretched state? I Ching, you flew a little too king fast. Lone Moon and Sun Shu descended from the clouds, panting. They looked into the courtyard and saw Xining. Lone Moon then heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, the scourge lives for 1,000 years. He really woke up. Father Nyo, what happened to Chef? Xining asked as she supported the fainted Chef. What else could have happened? Lone Moon glared at her with a look of resentment. He stepped forward to help her support him. As he checked his pulse, he replied, there was something wrong with his brain. He thought that you wouldn't wake up, so he ran all the way to the capital and fought with 8 people who had already ascended to the emperor level. Then, Xining tilted her head. Did he win? The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Was that the point? You should at least have some self-awareness as a master. Shouldn't your normal reaction be to scold him? Instead, Sun Shu hurriedly added, we won. Oh, that's good. Good my ass. Can't you be normal for even once? Lone Moon resisted the urge to tear her apart with his bare hands. He helped the man up from the ground. His injuries are too serious. I think he'll be unconscious for a while. Send him back to the house first. After saying those words, he and Sun Shu helped the young man back into the room and carefully examined his injuries before heaving a sigh of relief. How is it? Xining asked. I'm fine. I've only been flying for a few days and my body is empty of immortal energy. I'm just too tired. I'll be fine after a few days. Oh. Speaking of which. He turned to glare at her and said, what happened to you these past few days? Since you can wake up on your own, it proves that you are not afraid of the soul detachment technique at all, right? What technique? What was that? Weren't you under a spell? No. Then how did your divine sense? Oh, I've always had the habit of sleepwalking, Xining said nonchalantly. But I really didn't want to move. Every time I slept, I would think of the client you tricked in the capital. As I thought about it, I became ethereal. Client? Shujiang. So you're saying, you weren't under the soul detachment spell? That's right. Lone Moon, Sun Shu, everyone, they all looked at the man on the bed and thought of the 8 people who were beaten like dogs in the capital. They wanted to light a row of candles for them. Then where did your divine sense go these past few days? Why did you only wake up now? I went to the mortal realm. What? Lone Moon paused. Just as he was about to ask, Siyu suddenly walked in. Reporting to Sect Master, 2 people brought a child to the mountain gate. They said. Sect Master asked them to come. Oh, that's right. Xining nodded and asked Siyu to bring the child up. As he walked out, he briefly recounted what had happened in the mortal world. Father Nyo's expression darkened. He glared daggers at her. So, you found another freeloader? You even brought her back? Father Nyo, have some compassion. Didn't you do charity work often in the past? Lone Moon chuckled but did not object. Let's see how talented she is first. If she was weak, he would immediately throw her back to the lower realm. The few of them had just sat down for a while when Siyu led the child over from afar. After not seeing her for a few days, the little girl seemed to have grown a lot taller. She looked about 12 or 13 years old. She was no longer dressed in rags. Instead, she was dressed very exquisitely. It seemed like the 2 little animals treated her well. But her eyes were still timid, like a rabbit that would be startled at any time. Lone Moon frowned. He did not know why, but he did not like it. Only then did the child raise her head to look at the crowd. Perhaps because she did not see anyone familiar, she shuddered and took a step back reflexively. However, her foot suddenly turned and she fell forward, hitting the ground with a bang. Siyu was shocked. She was just about to bend over to help her up when the child raised her head. Her little head knocked into her outstretched arm. The immortal chi around her immediately repelled the child. She hurriedly held her head. Her body tilted again. With a grunt, she actually rolled all the way to the front of the crowd. With a loud thud, she hit the stone table that the few of them were sitting on. Several bumps appeared on her head. Even his originally exquisite clothes were now dirty from the rolling. The crowd, the corner of Xinying's mouth twitched. This bad luck belonged to the original shorty in the mortal realm. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. The child touched the bump on her head and looked up even more frantically. Her eyes were watery. She looked like she was about to cry but was trying her best to hold it in. The uncle who sent her here said that she had to be good and obedient in order to see the immortal who would protect her. Just this child? Lone Moon reached out to hold the child's arm. He wanted to help her up, but for some reason his hand slipped. There was a ripping sound. There was only a piece of cloth left in his hand. The child instantly lost her balance. With a thud, she hit the stone table again. Great, another bump. Lone Moon. Immediately, several pairs of eyes turned to look at him. What are you looking at? The corner of his mouth twitched. Why are you all looking at me like I'm bullying a child? I didn't do it on purpose. The clothes she was wearing were Dharma robes, weren't they? Why was it so easily torn? He hurriedly conjured a spell to help her up. I said, this child is a little special. Shining explained. She was especially unlucky. As soon as she said this, the child in front of her suddenly jumped. She looked up at her eyes widening. Surprise and joy flooded her eyes. Immortal. Immortal? You're an immortal. This voice, there was no mistaking it. As if she could not hold it in any longer, tears flowed out of her eyes. In an instant she was covered in tears. She turned around and threw herself at Shining. Immortal, immortal, air. Don't tell me I have to wipe it on her? The one who had just changed her clothes said. Don't be rude to the sect master. At the critical moment, Yu Hong reached out to stop her and carried the child a few steps away. Although she might be their little junior sister in the future, they still had to follow the rules. They had not hugged her before. The child looked at Shining, then at Yu Hong, who was holding her back. She had grown up after all. She wiped her tears hard and stepped back obediently. But her eyes were still like searchlights, staring straight at Shining. Good girl. Shining patted her head. Child, come here. Lone Moon waved at her and said seriously, although you were brought back by Shining, if you want to enter my invincible sect, we still have to look at your potential. With that said, he bent his finger and touched her forehead. He released his divine perception to check her spirit root. Water spirit root. He thought of something and frowned. He hurriedly pulled her hand to check her spirit root. Instantly, his expression darkened. Holy shit. Purine body. Shining, you're F*** causing trouble. Chapter 154. Don't mind the details. Is it a matter of the details? Lone Moon was getting irritated. This kind of constitution was troublesome. She actually wanted to bring her back. No, I don't agree. Why? Is there a need to ask? He glared at her. Let's not talk about how troublesome it is. Her spirit root is naturally weak and is not suitable for body tempering. How can she cultivate with everyone else? To become a body cultivator is simply... He paused mid-sentence, suddenly remembering something. He glanced at the child beside him and thought of the golden Barbies in the sect. Wait, why did he instinctively think of her as a body cultivator? Didn't he always want to break the curse of the body cultivator sect? This was a ready-made opportunity. Although the water spirit root was not suitable for sword cultivation, pill cultivation, talisman cultivation, beast taming and dharma cultivation were all suitable. Although the purine constitution was troublesome, it was not as bad in the immortal realm as it was in the mortal realm. Spirit chi could be plucked, but immortal chi could not. Moreover, with Cheat Shin around, it was easy to protect the child. So, for the development of the sect, this child had to be taken in. Child, are you willing to learn dharma talismans and array diagrams? With that said, he added, let me say this first, no one in the sect is proficient in these. You have to figure it out yourself. The little girl paused and glanced at Shining before replying timidly, if I learn, can I stay? She only wanted to follow the immortal. Of course. She nodded vigorously. I'll learn. All right, since that's the case, I won't object. Lone Moon glanced at Shining. He thought about where to start teaching her. He must not be led astray by the other disciples. He asked casually, oh yes, what's your name? Name. The little girl was stunned for a moment. She lowered her head and thought for a long time. It had been too long and she couldn't remember it clearly. After she was 3 years old, everyone just called her Jinx. Later on, her parents said that they had to go far away and never came back. No one called her by her name anymore. She could only vaguely remember, Mother? Seems to call me? Tonger? Oh, then what's your surname? Lone Moon picked up the teacup on the table. Surname? She tried hard to remember. This time she took a longer time before replying, Xian? My name is Xian Tong. Puff. Lone Moon spat out a mouthful of water and his face turned as black as ink. Holy shit. Declare. Tong. He stood up abruptly and picked up the child from the ground. He took 2 quick steps and threw the child to see you. Enunciating each word, he said, "Throw him back down the mountain." Everyone, Lone Moon looked at the foodie who was about to bury herself in the bowl and laughed coldly. He succeeded in making the other person freeze for a moment before saying, "I'll give you a chance to explain." The corner of Xinying's mouth twitched. She had no choice but to put down the bowl she was holding. Scratching her head, she said, "Well, if I told you that I didn't know she was your female lead from the start, would you believe me?" Lone Moon only threw out 2 words, "Hee hee." What did he mean by his female lead? "I really don't know." "Then why did you let her stay?" Lone Moon exploded instantly. "Do you know how troublesome the male and female leads are? It wasn't easy for me to send away a guy, but you're good. You turned around and brought back a female lead." Xinying sighed and looked at him, saying, "She's a child." "To hell with a child. She's a child now, but she won't be in the future." The more Lone Moon thought about it, the more anxious he became. "She's the female lead. Does the female lead know?" "I've said it before, the male and female leads are a combination of trouble. Whoever meets them will be unlucky. Stay as far away from them as possible. Just look at these 2 days. The sect has lost 3 arrays for Dharma artifacts and 5 Dharma talismans. Even the courtyard she's staying in temporarily has a hole in it. If she really grows up, according to the development of the plot, I don't know how she'll—" "Father Nyo." Xinying suddenly interrupted him. Looking straight at him, she said, "Apart from being unlucky, what did she do wrong?" Lone Moon paused. Reflexively, he replied, "She's the female in the plot. Then what about now?" "Now." He paused. "Now, of course, it hasn't happened yet. So you're going to convict her for something that didn't happen. But, is that plot really that important?" "It's important, right?" "What? Is there a need to ask?" Lone Moon blurted out. "That's something that will happen in the future." "Of course." "Oh, then are you sure that the plot is really in the future?" "Then when?" He stopped mid-sentence. Suddenly he remembered something. Wait. It seemed, the plot wasn't that accurate? According to the timeline in the novel, the male lead was still a child at this time. The female lead couldn't possibly appear at this time. Especially the male lead's identity. Even in the novel's ending, it wasn't stated that he was Celestial Emperor Jianghu. It seemed that from the moment Xinying appeared, the plot had already been messed up. "Father Nyo." Xinying sighed. "If this child wasn't someone in the plot, would you have let her live?" Lone Moon was stumped. "Because he would have. You said you wanted an explanation. Then let me tell you, I met this child by chance. A child who was abandoned by everyone, even her family. She looked so pitiful, so I helped her. It was that simple. There was no other reason. As for what she would become in the future, I really don't know. But before everyone does good things, they have to investigate to see if the other party will do bad things in the future?" Lone Moon couldn't answer. Indeed, because of the plot, he had a prejudice against the male and female leads from the start. Even though he knew that the plot was completely different from what he knew, he was still filled with hatred towards those people. All because of a future that he didn't know was accurate or not. You always say that they are the male and female leads in the plot. But the one who really lives in the plot is you. Lone Moon was stunned. Suddenly he felt a chill in his heart. Thinking about it carefully, indeed, whether it was Xinying or I Ching, they never seemed to care about the plot that he knew. Only he always tried his best to avoid getting involved, even though those things didn't happen. Only he stayed in the vortex of the plot and didn't go out. Instantly he felt as if someone had hit him on the head with a stick. Something that had been troubling him for a long time suddenly became clear in his mind. What's more? Xinying leaned back on the recliner and became a pile of mud again. She said lazily, "If that little shorty really grows up to be what you said, a brainless female lead in love, we can still break her legs." Lone Moon's mouth stiffened. Black lines appeared on his forehead. "Can you be serious for more than 3 seconds for once?" I'm very serious." She had always been. "Forget it." Lone Moon rolled his eyes at her out of habit, but a hint of a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "This time let's forget about it. If you want to do good things, do it yourself. I don't care anymore." With that said, he threw a bag over. Xinying caught it reflexively. When she opened it, she found that it was actually a bag full of immortal stones. Her eyes instantly widened. "Father Nyo, are you going to provide for me?" "Pui." He glanced at her in disdain. Which person in this invincible sect isn't my mistress? Oh, that was true. Then this is. The sudden increase in benefits shocked her. Living expenses for these 2 months. I had an epiphany. The corner of his mouth could not help but rise. Just now he had broken through the heart tribulation. The heavenly tribulation is coming soon. What kind of look is that? You allow your disciple to have epiphanies every day, but I can't? Give me back the immortal stones. Congratulations, Father Nyo. Congratulations, Father Nyo. Father Nyo is indeed as blessed as the heavens, and your life is as long as the heavens. She clutched the bag tightly. Get lost. Chapter 155. Chef, son. Shining glanced at the table full of new food. Her mouth twitched. She looked at a certain seriously injured person. I think I just had lunch. Master, I Ching replied seriously, these are just pastries, they are not considered a proper meal. If Master doesn't like them, why don't I find some fruits? I didn't get many immortal fruits last time. There's only some left. Mystic Phoenix fruit, Flying Feather fruit, Exotic Fragrance fruit, Buddha Flower fruit, and True Sand fruit. You eat first? As he spoke, he fished out a large sack from the storage bag on his side. Shining, there really wasn't much. Master, you don't like these? I Ching looked at her worriedly when she didn't move. I like them. Xinying's mouth twitched. But this was a little too much. She had already eaten more than 10 dishes during that meal. Adding this table full of food, she was a little full. And after he woke up, he seemed to be agitated by something. Apart from healing his wounds, he went into the kitchen and made all kinds of dishes for her 5 times a day. She really felt a little, oh yes, how many lightning strikes has Father Nyo had? She subconsciously squeezed the sack and asked. I Ching raised his head and looked into the distance. It was a patch of sky that was burning red. He lowered his head and counted before replying seriously, Master, your disciple has done some calculations. Together with the heavenly thunder just now, it's already the 84th heavenly thunder. 84. Shining had just taken a bite of the pastry. She turned back in shock. God's number, did he fail again? Wasn't it 81? Failed? I Ching was stunned for a moment. Then he understood that she was asking about the number. He hurriedly explained, it's not that the number of heavenly tribulations is wrong. But judging from the aura of the lightning, Lone Moon should have risen by 2 big realms. That's why he needs to experience 162 lightning strikes and 72 wildfire tribulations. After the heavenly tribulations, his cultivation should be able to directly reach exalted immortal. So he jumped 2 realms in an instant? It was as if she could see a certain person's tail curling up. Then how much longer? I've already chopped half of it. It'll be done in 7 days at most. 7 days. Xinying's eyes lit up. She stood up immediately and pointed at the table full of food. She looked at I Ching seriously and said, Chef, I've thought about it. I've been starving for so many days. Can you make some more food? Make it double or even triple. After he finished speaking, he took out the immortal stone pouch beside him and stuffed it into his hand. I have money. 2 months' worth, it was all spent. Yes, Master. No problem, Master. Yu Hong, who was just about to enter, the corner of her mouth twitched. She glanced at the fiery red sky in the distance and walked in. Sect Master. She suddenly understood why Elder Lone Moon was so keen on earning immortal stones. Yo, Little Red. Shining, who had completely let go of the food, turned around and waved her hand. There are pastries. Want some? I've already eaten. Thank you, sect leader. Yu Hong walked over and bowed to the 2 of them. Elder Lone Moon is going through a tribulation. There are 2 things that I don't know how to handle. That's why I'm here to report to Sect Master. Oh, what's the matter? Shining asked casually. It's like this. Just now, a disciple discovered that there was a sudden movement of immortal qi in the southwest area of the back mountain. Not only did it disperse the demonic qi nearby, but it also showed signs of solidifying. Yu Hong frowned and said worriedly, Something's wrong with the immortal qi? I Ching's expression darkened. As if thinking of something, he asked, Are there any traces of array formations or sorcery there? Yu Hong shook her head. I want to take a look too. I didn't find anything. I Ching's frown deepened. Could it be that someone had broken in? But Invincible Sect had always been surrounded by protective arrays. In addition, there was demonic qi all around. Who could have broken in? Master. He looked at the person beside him inquiringly. This matter is strange. Why don't we go and take a look? Oh. Father Nyo's absence was indeed troublesome. They still had to go out. Shining sighed and patted the pastries on her hands. Then she stood up slowly. Keep the pastries. We'll eat them when we come back. Yes. I Ching nodded. With a wave of his hand, the pastries on the table disappeared instantly. That's right. Shining was just about to leave when she suddenly remembered something. She said, Little Hong, have you asked Floaty to go and take a look? Yu Hong paused. Then she remembered that Shining was talking about Bitao. Not yet. That's right. Immortal Bitao had been in the immortal realm for a long time. You should know better. She quickly turned and said, I'll go and ask him now. Shining nodded. She stepped onto the flying sword that I Ching had summoned and flew with him to the back of the mountain. From afar, I Ching could feel the movement of immortal qi. It was indeed very thick. Moreover, it seemed to be concentrated on the flat land on the right. Now he could already see a faint white fog. I Ching's heart sank as he recalled what happened in the capital. Could it be that those people had found their way here so quickly? Did he beat them up too lightly the last time? There were already several disciples surrounding the area. When they saw the two of them, they all bowed. Master, do you see anything? I Ching looked at Shining. He did not sense anything special about the immortal qi. It seems like there's a hole? Shining was just about to answer when Yu Hong rushed over with Bitao. Great. Immortal. He subconsciously wanted to greet the two of them. When he saw the immortal qi, he was shocked. Isn't this the immortal ascension stage? It appeared so quickly. Immortal ascension stage. The group of disciples who had been recommended for direct ascension all looked confused. What? Fellow immortal Floaty, have you seen this kind of special immortal qi before? I Ching asked seriously. Why do you call me Floaty too? The corner of Bitao's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and explained, of course. This immortal ascension stage is a sign that someone from the lower realm is undergoing tribulation and ascending. As long as that person passes the tribulation, the immortal qi will condense into an immortal ascension stage. It will send down a welcoming light to welcome the immortal from the lower realm into the immortal realm. I see. The surrounding disciples sighed. So it was not an enemy to be a sparring partner. What a pity. There are 3,000 worlds in the lower realm. That's why this immortal ascension stage is quite common in the immortal realm. Bitao continued, when everyone ascended, the immortal ascension stage appeared here as well. It was just that a great immortal sect descended and it was destroyed. From the looks of it. Bitao glanced at the immortal ascension stage that was taking shape. This person must have ascended from the Azure world. The Azure world had just become one of the 3,000 worlds. Although the location of the immortal ascension stage was uncertain, it was created here after all. There was a high chance that someone from the Azure world would appear here when they ascended. You're saying that the person who ascended is someone we know? I Ching understood what he meant. Very likely. Bitao nodded. They wondered who it was that ascended. They thought about the mighty beings who descended to the lower realm. If they were not mistaken, they should be from the 4 aristocratic families, right? Everyone looked at the immortal qi expectantly except for I Ching. No matter who it was, they were all little bastards who came to steal their master. He suddenly regretted suggesting that his master come here. Was it too late to go back now? Chapter 156. More and more immortal qi appeared. A moment later, the shape of a white platform could be seen. Lightning flashed in the middle. Just as the platform was about to take shape, the lightning suddenly became more violent and destroyed the platform that had taken so much effort to form. Ha! Bitao exclaimed. The lightning tribulation has increased. It looks like this person has brought something else with him. Was bringing something along with him to immortal ascension a standard practice in the Azure world? After the lightning faded, the scattered immortal qi began to gather again. After about 15 minutes, the immortal ascension stage finally took shape again. The lightning in the middle also disappeared. A beam of golden light of guidance shot into the sky from the center. It lit up half the sky. Not far away, the fiery red light from Lonman's heavenly tribulation complemented each other. In the next moment, a black figure flew out of the golden light of the immortal ascension stage at an extremely fast speed, heading straight for them. Just as it was about to land on the ground, it seemed to be exhausted. With a loud thud, it fell from the sky and landed on the ground a dozen meters away. The light of guidance and the immortal ascension stage disappeared as soon as he appeared. Everyone then saw that the figure that had appeared was a ball of black paste. Moreover, it was the charred kind. Its entire body was black like charcoal, and its body was still emitting wisps of hot air. Instantly, the smell of roasted meat floated in the air. He seemed to have been struck too hard by the lightning tribulation. His entire body was curled up into a ball. His chest rose and fell violently. He took a few deep breaths and tried to stretch his limbs. He swayed as he tried to stand up. Everyone paused. After all, they were all people from the same realm. They exchanged a look and rushed forward to save him. Even Xin Ying subconsciously followed the crowd over. Before she reached the other party's side, she suddenly heard a monotonous, extremely familiar voice. Ding. Big Boss has been discovered. Urgent mission. Please kneel down in front of Big Boss and express your loyalty. Instantly, the black figure, who had just stood up with much difficulty, knelt down in front of her in a prostrating manner. Xining, Yi Qing, Bi Tao, everyone, why did he suddenly know who this person was when he greeted him with such a big bow? *CK. The black figure cursed. He rubbed his forehead and looked up. System, what the hell are you doing? Where is it this time? Holy shit. Shin. Was he dreaming? Why is this pervert here? Didn't he go missing? Xining raised her hand out of habit. Long time no see. What's his name again? Perfected Feng Ying. Yu Hong recognized the person in front of her. No. I should call you immortal friend Feng Ying now. Who would have thought that he would be the first person to ascend to the immortal world in the Azure world? Wasn't he a nascent soul cultivator when the invincible sect came to the upper world? How did you? Before Feng Ying could finish speaking, he suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The already weak immortal qi in his body dissipated even faster. Yi Qing frowned and was about to step forward. Feng Ying. A woman's voice suddenly rang out. In an instant, a woman's shadow floated out from his body. Her back was facing everyone, and her words were filled with worry and self-blame. Why did you have to do this? I told you long ago this won't do. If you had listened to me and ignored me, wouldn't it have been better for you to ascend on your own? Little you. Feng Ying reached out and held the woman's hand. The corners of his mouth twitched, as if he wanted to smile at the woman in front of him. I'm fine. Aren't we up here now? How can you be fine? The woman became even more anxious. Tears welled up in her eyes. If not for the fact that you used all your immortal qi to protect my soul during the lightning tribulation just now, you wouldn't have. Didn't I tell you before? I have a secret treasure, the system. Feng Ying tried to persuade her again in a low voice. The blood at the corner of his mouth flowed down uncontrollably. The system won't let me die. We'll definitely have a way. Before he could finish his sentence, the familiar sound of the notification rang out. Ding. Detected that the host's life force is too low. Strong mission. Host, please kneel on the ground with your palms under your head. With your body bent forward, crawl towards the big boss and shout the healing spell. Grandma, save me. P.S. Please use a volume of at least 200 decibels to repeat 3 times. Xining, Feng Ying, for all. Flips table. Who are you trying to bluff at a time like this? You stupid system, you just want to suck up to me. Do you have to go crazy every time you see Xining? Grandma can't save you, Xining replied seriously. Whose grandma are you? Believe it or not, I'll really beat you up. Chef, you. Just as she was about to ask Chef to help take a look, the woman whose back was facing them suddenly trembled all over. She turned her head abruptly and looked at her in disbelief. Ha! She replied subconsciously. Only then did she realize that this girl looked a little familiar. Roasted chicken gal? Xining. It's really you? Her eyes reddened instantly. She glanced at the affectionate Feng Ying beside her, then, decisively, she flung his hand away with a smack, turned around and hugged Xining, who was behind her. That's great, you're all right. You're really all right? You scared me to death. Yi Qing, Feng Ying, little bitch *2 Xining. What's going on? Because Feng Ying wanted to forcefully bring roasted chicken gal up, he had to endure double the lightning tribulation. Although he had the help of the system, he was still struck until he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Holding on to his last breath, he only managed to ascend the immortal ascension stage because he wanted to forcefully bring roasted chicken gal up. What's more, he gave most of his immortal qi to Qingyu during the lightning tribulation. That was why his injuries had not healed. As for why roasted chicken gal was with him, it was because of the sudden disappearance of invincible sect. In order to save Father Nyo, time was tight. What's more, the only person in charge, Lone Moon, was not awake. Thus, the master and disciple duo did not think to inform them. What's more, so many immortals descended to destroy the world. Everyone thought that the phenomenon of ascension was caused by those immortals. Even Rabbit did not know that they had ascended. The four aristocratic families searched for a long time but could not find any traces of them. They could only give up. After that, only Qingyu and Feng Ying were left to investigate. After a while, the two of them saw eye to eye. Roasted Chicken Gal's cultivation was high. She was already a soul formation cultivator. But she was a fiendish cultivator after all. The lightning tribulation was already heavier than that of ordinary cultivators. Thus, she had been suppressing her cultivation. In the end, she could not suppress it any longer. In the end, she did not transcend the tribulation. When Bing Jie became a traveling immortal, something happened. When Feng Ying arrived, it was already too late. Her bones were completely destroyed. She was so badly injured that she could only appear in the form of a spirit body. Feng Ying had decided to ascend to the immortal world to find a way to save her. Oh yes. She suddenly remembered something. Little Hong, didn't you say that two things happened? What's the other thing? It's not a big deal. There are two people at the foot of the mountain asking to see Sect Master, Yu Hong replied. Oh. Shining did not mind. She continued to look at Bitao and Feng Ying, who were still recuperating. Hopefully they were all right. At the foot of the mountain. The little animal celestial emperor duo. They had been standing at the foot of the mountain for almost half a month. Why had the exalted goddess not summoned them? Was she angry? She definitely was. Just because she was late by 2 days. Sob sob sob. What should they do? They were doomed. The two of them were trembling. Chapter 157. It took Bitao 7 whole days to repair Feng Ying's meridians. His body, which had been charred black, finally regained some color and became much more alert. Bitao wiped the sweat from his forehead and walked out. The moment he stepped out of the door, he saw a few people in the yard. Although they said they were waiting, they had actually been eating for a few days. Weren't they supposed to be acquaintances? Why did it seem like he was the only one who was worried? Sect Master. Bitao sighed and stepped forward. I've already helped him repair his meridians, but the lightning tribulation has damaged his foundation. I can't help him recover with my current cultivation level. He needs to be nursed back to health. He was only a mystic immortal and had just ascended. Only an exalted immortal would be able to repair his damaged foundation. Oh, thank you. Shining nodded and took a bite of the fruit in her hand. Then she turned to look at Feng Ying. The next moment, the familiar notification sounded again. Ding. Detected that the host's bodily functions have recovered by 88%. Mission: gratitude is a traditional virtue. Please thank the host for saving his life within 1 minute. Feng Ying stumbled and almost fell to his knees again. He steadied himself and cursed the system tens of thousands of times in his heart. He ignored the voice in his head. He turned to Bitao and cupped his fists. Thank you, fellow immortal Bitao, for your help. I will repay you in the future. Don't stand on ceremony, fellow immortal. Bitao hurriedly stopped. I'm just following the sect master's orders. Feng Ying turned and walked over quickly. He walked past Shining and held Qingyu's hand. Looking at her affectionately, he said, Little Yu, did I scare you? I'm sorry to have made you worry, but I'm fine now. Qingyu's hand paused. Actually, she was not that worried. After all, Shining had been found. As long as you're fine. Thank goodness we met, Shining, otherwise She did not continue. She looked at Shining gratefully. Feng Ying reluctantly squeezed out 2 words. Thank you. You're welcome, baby. She did not do anything anyway. The corner of Feng Ying's mouth twitched. Who's the baby? Ding. Host, baby reading data. Do you want a display? He hated this parenting system. Tower Master Feng. I Ching, who was at the side, stepped forward. Intentionally or unintentionally, he stood between Tower Master Feng and Shining. You're the crazy Tower Master, your whole family are crazy Tower Masters. How many times have I said it? It's Tower Mastering. Let's talk about her. What are your plans? I Ching glanced at Qingyu, who was beside him. He could not tell anything from her spirit body. Since Feng Ying had decided to bring her to the upper realm, it was impossible for her to remain a spiritual body forever. Feng Ying frowned and exchanged a glance with Qingyu. Seeing her nod, he said, Back then I let little Yu's spirit body leave her body because I wanted to save her. but for some reason her spirit can't return to her body. He formed a hand seal, closed his eyes and tapped on his forehead. Instantly a white light flashed. He waved his hand at the ground next to him and a red figure lay on the ground. It was roasted chicken gal's body. Ding. Item has been successfully extracted from the system warehouse. That position was, you kept her body in your own consciousness. Bitao was shocked. He looked at Feng Ying as if he were an idiot. The consciousness was an important place. It was like a second soul. Any strange aura that entered the consciousness would cause unbearable pain. No. Feng Ying shook his head and turned to look at Shining, but he did not explain. It was indeed not the consciousness. He was just living in the system and using the spirit chi in the consciousness to nourish Little Yu's body. Floaty, take a look at the situation? Shining urged, changing the subject. Bitao stepped forward and used his immortal chi to check. The more he looked, the deeper his frown became. He turned back to look at the worried Feng Ying and sighed. Her body, meridians, elixir field, and divine perception have all been destroyed by the lightning. Although it's troublesome, it's not impossible to repair it. She just needed to nourish her body. Feng Ying was overjoyed. Bitao continued, as for why her spirit body can't return to her body, I can't tell. As soon as he finished speaking, Feng Ying and roasted chicken gal's expressions darkened. So even the immortal realm couldn't do anything? Of course, it could also be because my cultivation level is too low, Bitao added. The two of them still did not look any better. Why don't we wait for Father Nyo to come and take a look? Shining suggested. Chef's injuries could not be healed. Father Nyo might have a way. Nyo. Feng Ying stared blankly for a moment before realizing who she was talking about. He was elated. Compared to the infuriating Shining, he obviously had a better impression of his former partner. Brother Lone Moon has also ascended to the upper world. What about me? As they spoke, Lone Moon, who had just finished his tribulation, walked in. He seemed to be in a good mood. Hey Father Nyo. Shining waved her hand. She had just used up all her immortal stones. She was just about to greet him when Feng Ying walked over. Brother Nyo, you're finally here. Who's your brother Nyo? Lone Moon frowned. He scanned the person in front of him, who smelled burnt. Only then did he recognize him. Tower Master Ying, you've ascended? The strange immortal chi that Lone Moon felt when he was undergoing the tribulation was him. He turned and glared at Shining. His expression said, you're freaking picking people up to eat your rice again. And they're all poor. Feng Ying did not sense his disdain at all. He looked like he had found a friend. Nyo? No, Brother Lone Moon, please save Little Yu. What Little Yu? Lone Moon turned and saw Qingyu beside him. Holy shit. Keep glaring at a certain foodie. You've picked up two at once. I've decided. I'll deduct your food allowance. Fellow Immortal Bitao said that your cultivation level is the highest. Only you can save her now. With that said, he was about to kneel down. He liked to hear that. Tower Master Ying, don't stand on ceremony. Lone Moon held him up. Tell me what's going on first. On account of your good bootlicking. Although I'm indeed the highest cultivation level here, I have to know what's going on, right? The injured I Ching. Feng Ying explained the situation again. Lone Moon checked roasted chicken gal on the ground. After a while, he shook his head and said, there's nothing I can do. Feng Ying's face paled. I don't know much about spirit bodies. I've never seen her in this state before. Lone Moon thought for a while. After a while he said, but I heard that there's an immortal herb called dried half moon. It can nourish spirit bodies. Might be useful. Really? Feng Ying was overjoyed. He was about to ask where the immortal herb was. Dried half moon. Bitao suddenly exclaimed. That's a supreme grade immortal herb. It only grows in the heavens beyond heaven. That's the territory of the 10 celestial emperors. Ordinary immortals can't see this kind of immortal herb. What's more, things that were beneficial to spirit bodies were also beneficial to divine perception. This kind of immortal herb was a treasure. Chapter 158. Forget it. Qingyu stepped forward and said, life and death are decreed by fate. Feng Ying, you don't have to do this for me. No. Feng Ying became more and more anxious. He came to the upper realm to save her. How could he give up at a time like this? Brother Lone Moon, do you have a way to enter the heavens beyond heaven? I'm willing to pay any price. In all his years of cultivation, this was the first time he had met a girl who caught his eye. Lone Moon sighed. Tower Master Ying, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that we haven't been in the upper realm for a long time, and we've never been to the outlands, so we don't know anyone. So, I know him, Shining suddenly said. Everyone was stunned for a few seconds before they turned their heads in unison and looked at her in shock. Especially Feng Ying, who had been extremely unwilling just now, but now knelt down in front of her without hesitation. Shining, I know you're a good person, please save little you. I'll do anything you want me to do, even if you want my life. She didn't say that she wasn't going to save him. Instinctively she shifted to the side. It's not that I'm not going to save him. Was the parenting system the one who taught her to bow so often? However, Feng Ying thought that she was unwilling and instantly panicked. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly asked tentatively, Grandma? Chi Qingyu? Everyone? Shining? Mother ****. Go. Tower Master Shadow, don't be anxious. He looked at Shining and asked, when did you get to know people from the heavens beyond heaven? When I sleepwalk, Shining said. Didn't I tell you before? The two animals that wanted to kidnap Shorty were from the sky beyond heaven. They were also the ones who helped to send her over. Little Dong, you met a demon immortal? Lone Moon was stunned. He had thought that the little animal she was talking about was a spirit beast. So it was a demon immortal? They were from the sky beyond heaven. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Where are they now? I don't know. That was why he didn't agree to the baby immediately. Lone Moon rolled his eyes. What an unreliable person. He was thinking about how to contact them. Yu Hong, who had been standing at the side, suddenly said, Sect Master, are you talking about two men? One in green and the other in black? Yes. How did you know? Yu Hong, have you seen him before? Lone Moon asked anxiously. Yes, I have. Yu Hong's expression became even more strange. They are the people who have been waiting at the foot of the mountain to see the sect master. I've been standing for more than half a month. Almost as soon as the mountain gate opened, two figures flew directly towards the rear hall. In an instant, two figures appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Just as Yu Hong said, one was green and the other black. Immortals? Lone Moon stepped forward to greet them out of habit, but he was pushed back by the immortal chi that the two of them could not retract in time. His eyes widened. Holy shit. What the hell was this frighteningly high immortal chi? What level of cultivation did this demon immortal have? I Ching? He subconsciously tugged at the person beside him who was more sensitive to auras. I Ching frowned and replied, Celestial Emperor. What? Shit. ***CK that little animal. What exactly did Shining do when she was sleepwalking? Greetings, exalted goddess. Too unexpectedly, the two of them bowed in Xin Ying's direction. They were so well behaved that they did not even dare to let their hair move. Hey, long time no see. Shining waved at the two of them out of habit and pointed to the empty seat opposite her. Come and sit. The two of them were shocked and immediately shook their heads resolutely. No, no, no. I don't dare. We'll just stand. Yes, yes, yes. It's good to stand. We like to stand. What a joke. They specially came to ask for forgiveness. How would they dare to sit? They were punished to stand at the foot of the mountain for half a month before the exalted goddess's anger subsided a little. Now that they were asked to sit, could it be? The two of them subconsciously glanced at the table in front of Shining. They saw that it was filled with all kinds of meat. The two of them immediately trembled even more. Was this a show of strength? If they did not do well, she would make them into dishes or something. This was definitely what she meant. So scary, all right. Seeing that the two of them were unwilling, Shining did not force them. She continued, that little Shorty has worked hard. Indeed, she did not forget about this. Fortunately, they did not sit. The two of them took a deep breath. After half a month of mental preparation, they finally plucked up the courage to explain. Exalted goddess, please forgive us. Is really, the immortal world is too big. We spent 4 days to find the location of Chushuang City and another day to find this place. That's why we were late. What's fine? Shining pointed to the side. I'm looking for you for something else. Come over and help me check on roasted chicken gal. Roasted chicken. The two of them shivered reflexively. They then saw a person lying on the ground. She looked exactly like the shadow beside the exalted goddess. Yes. The two of them immediately went over and held up one of her hands to examine her. The more they looked, the paler their faces became. This person's body had obviously been burned. Then they thought about how the exalted goddess called her roasted chicken gal. The two of them exchanged a look. Instantly, the same terrifying thought flashed through their minds. Was this person really roasted? Could it be that when the exalted goddess ate, she even ate human cultivators? They were trembling so much that they could barely hold on to their hands. How is it? Can she be saved? Shining suddenly asked. The two of them were so shocked that they almost jumped up. Luckily, their mental fortitude from the past 2 weeks was working. They swallowed a few times before they managed to suppress the scream that was about to come out of their mouths. Blackbird sucked in a deep breath. He stepped forward and answered, Exalted. Exalted goddess, this person's body was burnt, damaged. It's easy to recover. A 10th grade immortal pill will do. However, the vitality in her body has already been severed. If we want her spirit body to return, we need to reconstruct it. No matter why the exalted goddess changed her mind to save roasted chicken gal, they had to pretend that they didn't know. They didn't know at all. Oh. So that was the reason why roasted chicken gal couldn't return to her body. Continue. In the past, I had Half Moon Dry in Phoenix Cry Palace. It could help her spirit body return, but Phoenix Cry Palace had already been destroyed by Biao Ting. They didn't know if they could find it. Biao Ting trembled and immediately raised his hand. I have it. I have Half Moon Dry. It can definitely help her recover. Damn it. Didn't they say that they were brothers in hardship? How dare they trick him? Oh, then I'll have to trouble you. Shining heaved a sigh of relief. It was finally settled. Exalted divine guest, you're too kind. This is what we should do. Biao Ting wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. He suddenly thought of something and said, Half Moon Dry has to be consumed within half an hour. Otherwise it will lose its effect. Fairy, if you want to recover, please come with me to the heavens beyond heaven. Thank you, fellow immortals. Feng Ying was overjoyed. He didn't think that this matter would be resolved so easily. It was like a dream. Roasted Chicken Gal immediately stepped forward to thank them. Then she turned around and said, Shining, thank you. You've saved me once again. It's nothing. She didn't do anything. Suddenly she remembered something. She looked at the two of them and said, Oh yes, you two seem to be quite good at treating illnesses. Take a look at him too. She pointed at I Ching. Yes. The two of them immediately stepped forward and took a closer look at the immortal chi on I Ching's body. He was faintly emitting the aura of an emperor. It wasn't weak either. It was just that he hadn't been to the Emperor Ascension stage yet. The two of them were shocked. They asked, Fellow immortal, you are? Oh, he's my chef. Shining answered subconsciously. As soon as she finished speaking, there was a loud thud. The two of them felt their legs turn to jelly. They fell to their knees. She had even prepared a chef for them. What happened to forgiving them? Chapter 159. Compared to roasted chicken gal, I Ching's injuries were much better. He just needed to rest. Perhaps he could go directly to the Emperor Ascension stage and raise his cultivation level to that of a young emperor. His injuries could also be healed by the rich immortal chi during the ascension. Coincidentally, the Emperor Ascension stage was also in the heavens beyond heaven, but in two different directions. The few of them decided to split up. Shining and the others would go to the Emperor Ascension stage. Roasted Chicken Gal and Feng Ying would follow the two emperors to retrieve the dry half moon to heal their injuries. The moment they flew out of the invincible sect, the two of them heaved a long sigh of relief. Great, they were still alive. After worrying for half a month, they could finally rest easy. Luckily they were useful. Otherwise, they might have appeared on the exalted god's table. The two beasties rejoiced and even looked at Feng Ying and Qi Qingyu with friendlier eyes. Not only did they take out their top-grade immortal weapons to invite the two of them up, they even introduced the situation of the heavens beyond heaven to them. Fellow immortals, are you tired? Do you want to rest? The journey to the heavens beyond heaven will take close to 2 days. The journey is long, there's no rush. Yes. Miss Chi is still a spirit body. It's inconvenient for you to travel. I have a soul calming pearl here. It can nourish your chi and calm your nerves. It's perfect for you. That's right. Fellow immortal Ying has not recovered from his injuries. I have a bottle of supreme-grade immortal pills here. Fellow immortal, take one to heal your injuries. You can eat the rest for fun. Feng Ying, Qi Qingyu, thank you, celestial emperors. Seeing that the two of them were holding up the things in their hands, as if they would not give up until they accepted them, the two of them had no choice but to accept it and thank them sincerely. Feng Ying. Qi Qingyu tugged at Feng Ying subconsciously. Looking at the two of them, she could not help but send a voice transmission. These two are really celestial emperors? The most powerful people in the immortal realm? Yes, I guess. Feng Ying was uncertain. Were the immortals in the immortal realm also hospitable? Seeing that the two of them were about to give them more, he hurriedly reminded them, "Thank you for your hard work, celestial emperors. But it's getting late. We should hurry. What's more, we promised Shining that we would meet back at Invincible Sect in 10 days at most, so..." Before he could finish his sentence, the two of them suddenly trembled and stood up straight. Their relaxed expressions changed and their faces turned pale. "Hurry, hurry, hurry. Let's hurry to the sky beyond heaven. We have to rush back today." They almost forgot about their proper business. In an instant, the entire magic tool whizzed forward at a speed 10 times faster than before. Qi Qingyu almost lost her balance. Feng Ying, who seemed to have recalled something, had they disturbed Xin Ying's sleep? The other side. The master and disciple looked at the person in front of them silently. "What are you looking at?" Lone Moon glared back. "The heaven beyond heaven belongs to you. Can't I go there?" "That's not it." Xin Ying scratched her head. "I just thought you would be in the same group as Feng Ying and the others. I Ching, +1. Based on Father Nyo's money-grubbing nature, how could he let go of 2 big clients just like that and follow them to the Emperor Ascension stage? That didn't make sense. Why should I be in the same group as them?" Lone Moon rolled his eyes. "They weren't that close anyway. You two with the surname, you won't feel comfortable if you don't cause trouble. How can I not keep an eye on you?" He didn't want to receive news that they destroyed this place today and destroyed that place tomorrow. What's more, looking at the attitude of the 2 celestial emperors, Lone Moon and Biao Ting, it wasn't like they couldn't interact anymore. If they wanted to do business, they could do so anytime. What's more, he had already instructed Feng Ying to collect information. With the system, they could scan any mushroom growing within a 500-kilometer radius. Once they had concrete data, they would know their enemy and scam. Pui. They would be able to get twice the results with half the effort when doing business. "Hurry, hurry. Isn't the Emperor Ascension stage very far?" Lone Moon urged. "We agreed to settle it within 10 days. What about other business we have to do when we get back? Don't dawdle, you two. Xin Ying, I Ching, poor people like us really don't understand the world of the rich." Although Father Nyo rushed them along the way, it still took the 3 of them 5 days to reach the Emperor Ascension stage in the heavens beyond heaven. Actually, the so-called heavens beyond heaven was similar to the Yufeng immortal abode. It was a place connected to the immortal realm, yet isolated from it. It was just that the Yufeng immortal abode was at the edge of the immortal realm, while the heavens beyond heaven was in the center of the immortal realm, above the 9 heavens. If they wanted to go up, they had to go through the 9 palace gates. Every level was guarded by immortals from different continents. Only those with the tokens of the celestial emperors could go through the palace gates. But the Emperor Ascension stage was different. It was at the edge of the heavens beyond heaven. One could go there directly without going through the 9 palace gates. The 3 of them flew straight up. For a few days they were surrounded by white immortal fog. Finally they could see the tall stage in the distance. The stage was very wide. It looked like a martial arts arena in a sect. There were no special buildings around it. It was just a lonely stage floating in the 9 heavens. Even from afar they could feel the suppressive force of heaven and earth emanating from it. Lone Moon paused unsteadily. He took a deep breath and continued flying. The moment they landed, a white figure appeared in front of them. "Greetings, fellow immortals." It was a white-haired old man dressed in white. He smiled warmly as he looked at I Ching. His eyes lit up and then he bowed again. "Young Emperor." There were 3 stages of Emperor Ascension in the immortal realm. Those who became young emperors were called young emperors. Those who became immortal emperors were called exalted emperors. Only celestial emperors were called celestial emperors. He had been on the Emperor Ascension stage for many years. Naturally, he could tell at a glance that I Ching, who was on the right, was the one who had come to ascend to young emperor. "Congratulations, young emperor, on your cultivation level." He smiled even more warmly. Without further ado, he stepped to the side and said, "I am the immortal guarding the Emperor Ascension stage. The celestial emperors ordered me to be here to answer the questions of the newly ascended immortal emperors. Fellow immortals, please follow me." He led them all the way to the Emperor Ascension stage. Then he pointed to the center and looked at I Ching. "Young emperor, please stand on the heavenly stone in the center. Heavenly light will appear." Young Emperor only needs to guide the immortal Qi in and stay there for a quarter of an hour. Thank you, fellow immortal. I Ching nodded and walked towards the center. Shen Ying and Lone Moon subconsciously took a step forward, but the immortal guarding the stage stopped them. Fellow immortals, please wait. Only those who have ascended to the Emperor Ascension stage can enter. Oh. The two of them retreated and looked worriedly at the person standing in the center. After all, he was still injured. Fellow immortals, don't worry. As if reading their minds, the immortal guarding the stage said, Young Emperor will be fine. Ascending to the Emperor Ascension stage is different from Tribulation Transcendence. There will only be heavenly light, which is very beneficial to one's cultivation. There will not be any danger. There won't be a heavenly tribulation? Lone Moon paused. He thought that the immortal guarding the stage was afraid that they would be implicated by the heavenly tribulation. Exalted immortal, you must be joking. He chuckled. Ascending to the Emperor Ascension stage is a good thing. Why would there be a heavenly tribulation? This Emperor Ascension stage is a reward from the heavens for cultivators. However, if he becomes an immortal emperor or a celestial emperor in the future, there will still be a heavenly tribulation. He just won't have to come to the Emperor Ascension stage anymore. I see. Lone Moon nodded. He did not think much of it and continued looking at I Ching. Chapter 160. I Ching had already sat down cross-legged, ready to enter meditation. The moment he closed his eyes, a huge burst of immortal qi erupted from his body. The wind and clouds around him surged. A blinding ray of heavenly light descended from the sky and landed on him. The immortal qi became thicker and the suppressive force in the sky forced him to take a step back. The immortal guarding the platform seemed to be used to this kind of scene. He did not know what triggered him, but an array appeared around the three of them, protecting them within it. The immortal qi on the platform became thicker. Under the golden light, I Ching's aura was increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lone Moon subconsciously sensed that this kind of light was similar to the light of guidance he saw when he ascended. Only this time it was thicker and bigger. The suppressive force in the sky was even more shocking. Even within the array they could not help but feel their hearts tremble. The immortal guarding the platform was right. This Emperor Ascension stage was really a benefit for those who ascended to become an emperor. Not only would there be no heavenly tribulations, but one could also directly increase one's cultivation level. But one's cultivation level had to be high enough to withstand this kind of suppressive force. At least he could not do it now. This bunch of cheats. What's that? Shen Ying suddenly looked up at the sky. What? Lone Moon subconsciously looked up. He did not know when, but a few colorful clouds had appeared in the sky. As they moved, he could vaguely see something flashing. Lightning tribulation? Didn't they say there was no lightning tribulation? That's the Emperor Seal lightning. The immortal guarding the platform explained. It's all right. Everyone will appear when they ascend to become an emperor. Once the lightning seal is activated, the emperor's position will be formed. Just as he finished speaking, there was a crisp crackling sound. Indeed, an ordinary white lightning bolt struck down, right between I Ching's eyebrows. I Ching did not react. Instead, a red seal slowly appeared on his forehead. It was a simple vertical line. She frowned and continued looking up at a certain spot in the sky. This lightning, the Emperor Seal is formed. The immortal guarding the platform exclaimed. Indeed, in the next moment, the immortal qi around I Ching dissipated. The heavenly light around him also slowly dissipated. Congratulations on becoming an emperor, young emperor. The immortal guarding the platform immediately bowed. Lone Moon snorted coldly and said to the person walking towards him, I'll let you take the lead for now. I'll catch up. Shen Ying, you. Shen Ying? Shen Ying. Realizing that Shen Ying was still looking up at something, he quickly pushed her away. What's wrong? Are you stupid? What are you looking at? I'm fine. Shen Ying snapped out of her trance and looked at the person who was walking over. Chef, how was it? Master. I Ching's eyes lit up. Indeed, Master cared about him the most. My injuries are completely healed. Also, the immortal energy in my body is more abundant than ever before. This was the first time he had such a strong feeling, and he clearly knew that his cultivation base had increased by so much. What about Sword Qi? Shen Ying suddenly asked. Sword Qi. I Ching paused as if he had just remembered this. He hurriedly sensed the Sword Qi and was instantly stunned. It seems like it's the same as before. There didn't seem to be any difference. Oh. Shining narrowed her eyes and did not continue asking. She turned to Lone Moon and said, Father Nyo, can we go back now? I'm so hungry. You only know how to eat all day, eat until you die. Lone Moon glared at her resentfully, but still turned to bid farewell to the immortal guarding the platform. Let's go, chef. Shin Ying immediately urged I Ching to fly on his sword. Yes, master, no problem, master. Only then did the three of them fly back. Invincible sect. Shin Ying and the others had just stepped into the rear hall when they bumped into Roasted Chicken Gal and Feng Ying. The two of them had returned a day earlier than them. Chi Chingyu's injuries had also completely healed, and she was no longer that phantom. She was already good-looking, and now her red clothes were especially eye-catching. Feng Ying, who was standing beside her, looked like an infatuated man. Shining. The moment she saw her, Chi Chinyu immediately rushed over and hugged her. Her worried words popped out like firecrackers. Why did you only come back now? I thought something happened to you guys. You were already planning to go out to look for people. How was it? Did anything happen on the way? Were you injured? Did anyone bully you? I'll help you beat him up. Feng Ying, I Ching, both of their faces darkened at the same time. They looked as if they were resisting the urge to rush up and pull the two of them apart. Little b****** two inch air. I'm fine. Shin Ying struggled to pull her hand away. She had never felt that Roasted Chicken Gal was so warm before. Tower Mastering. Lone Moon's eyes brightened as he looked directly at Feng Ying. You've had a tough journey. Did you gain anything from this trip? Hurry up and exchange information. Let's see what we can scam from the heavens beyond heaven. As he spoke, he pulled Shin Ying towards the stone table at the side. Brother Lone Moon, just call me Feng Ying. Feng Ying glanced at Chi Chinyu again. He realized that she was only concerned about Shin Ying's well-being and did not even look at him. He then walked over with a belly full of resentment. Little you doesn't love me anymore, sad? Thank goodness you're fine. Chi Chinyu continued to pull Shin Ying. She looked at her from head to toe, exuding the radiance of an old mother. You must be tired from the journey, right? Do you want to rest? Oh yes, why are you always wearing this gray robe? I know array talisman techniques and my body is better now. Do you want me to add a few more Dharma robes for you? Inner clothes, outer robes, lower garments, even? She smiled and lowered her voice. Dudu is fine too. What color do you like? Why did he feel like he was being stared at by a strange auntie? No need. Shin Ying frowned and immediately changed the topic. Well, I'm very hungry. Let's go back to the rear hall to cook. She seemed to have just remembered this matter. She hurriedly turned around and pushed the door open. All right, let's go in. Just as she was about to push the door open, there was a sudden gurgling sound from inside. Be careful. I Ching, who had been standing by the side, was shocked. He immediately hugged Shin Ying and took a few steps back. Master, are you all right? I'm fine. Shin Ying looked forward and saw a pile of long and round things rushing out of the door. They scattered all over the ground. Chi Chinyu did not react in time and was almost buried in them. Little you. Feng Ying flew over in a flash. He wanted to help Roasted Chicken Gal, who was about to fall, but he suddenly stepped on something. He stumbled and fell with a thud. What kind of hidden weapon is this? He climbed out of the pile of round things with a confused look. He grabbed one and looked at it. It looked a little familiar. This is potato? How could there be such mortal things in the immortal realm? No wonder it was a potato spirit immortal? The few of them went forward to take a look. Only then did they realize that there were not just potatoes scattered all over the ground. There were also sweet potatoes, radishes, spirit herbs, garlic balls and all kinds of other dishes. Not only that, the house was filled with them. Shin Ying suddenly had a bad feeling. She turned to look at I Ching beside her. Chef, these can't be. You planted them, right? I Ching's expression darkened. His figure flashed and disappeared from the rear hall. In less than 3 breaths he flew back again. His expression darkened even more. He nodded at her. Yes. These were the things he had planted. He had originally planned to use them as a side dish for Master when he cooked. How many did you pluck? Not a single stalk. Shin Ying glanced at the 3 particularly eye-catching dandelions on the windowsill. Suddenly she understood who had moved these things over. Chapter 161. Shorty had been at Invincible Sect for more than a month now. Other than being unlucky and often suffering from external injuries, everything else was fine. The only thing that could not be changed was that she persisted in stuffing offerings to Lone Moon for her 3 meals a day. She didn't know where she got them from. Sometimes it was a small bag of pastries, sometimes it was a small bag of snacks, and sometimes it was a variety of immortal fruits. Anyway, every morning she could see these things neatly placed on the windowsill. And no matter how much she expressed that she didn't need them, she didn't change her habit of giving offerings. Until one day when she came in carrying a small wildflower that she didn't know where she got it from, Radish bumped into her. A certain vegetable immediately exploded. The 2 young people started fighting. Radish firmly defended its right to send flowers to Shining, refusing to let other flowers get close to Shining. He forced Shorty to exchange the small wildflower in her hand for his dandelion. He even said that if she wanted to send more in the future, she would have to exchange it with him. From then on, no other flowers appeared on her windowsill. Shining glanced at the 3 dandelions on the windowsill. When the wind blew, a string of smoke-like seeds floated up. The corner of her mouth twitched even more. After setting up the monument, she also offered 3 sticks of incense to herself. Straight face, Sect Master Elder Lone Moon, she's here. Yu Hong led Shorty in. After not seeing her for a few days, she seemed to have grown taller. She was almost at Yu Hong's shoulder now. Divine Immortal, you're back. The moment they entered the back hall, Xian Tong's eyes lit up. She was just about to run towards Shining when she remembered something. She imitated Yu Hong and bowed. Xian Tong greets Sect Master and 2 elders. Xian Tong, did you throw these things in the house? Lone Moon asked. Xian Tong blushed and nodded vigorously. Yes. Why? These are offerings for Divine Sect Master. Lone Moon felt a headache coming on. You're already a disciple of our sect. There's no need to specially give you offerings. And it's from your own land. That guy I Ching is already giving you a lot of face by not beating you up. But I promised the deities, she said with a serious expression. Big Sister Hong said that we have to be honest as humans, and it's even more so as immortals. You have to do what you promised. The deities had blessed her. She had said that she would give offerings every day, so she could not stop for even a day. Lone Moon, Yu Hong who was shot. What's more? She frowned, looking aggrieved. She looked straight at Shining. I haven't seen Immortal for so many days. I thought she didn't want me anymore. Her voice deepened, but it returned to normal after a while. I knew that the deities would definitely come back, so I prepared food that can be stored for a very, very long time. It won't go bad. She had spent a lot of effort to find it at the back of the mountain. She had dug it for a very, very long time. I Ching, the original owner of the food that wouldn't spoil. You wanted to throw her down the mountain +1. Did I do something wrong? Xian Tong looked at them blankly. Lone Moon's expression darkened. He really couldn't say the word wrong. He sighed. He didn't know what to do with this child who had good intentions but did bad things. She was a child after all. He turned to Shining and said, Hey, you're a fan. Make your own decisions. I don't care anymore. She looked at the child who was looking at her with sparkling eyes. She hadn't eaten yet. Educating a child was so troublesome. Sighing, he got up and walked towards her. That short Sect Master Immortal. Xian Tong straightened her back immediately. She was glowing like a fangirl. Ah! The deities were finally talking to her. Let me tell you a secret. Huh? She hesitated. Actually, it's not popular for us to give food to the deities. That's why these are useless. And they were vegetables used to accompany the dishes. Really? She was stunned. Her whole body was like a deflated balloon. Her eyes were misty and she looked like she was about to cry. Then what do I have to do to be considered a deity? That's difficult. You won't be able to learn it in a short time. I'm not afraid. Sect Master, please teach me. I will do well. Good. She turned and pointed to the inside of the house. With a serious face she said, Let's plant these things back in their original places first. I'll go right away. Her face lit up and she immediately bent down to pick up the vegetables on the floor. Lone Moon, was she bluffing? She was obviously bluffing. She just wanted to empty the house, right? She didn't even let the child off. How shameless could she be? Come, I have a storage bag here. It's more convenient to use it. Thank you, Sect Master. You're welcome. After you plant them, remember to come back and clean up the house. All the best. I have high hopes for you. Yes, Sect Master. No problem, Sect Master. Lone Moon. F*** King retard. Wait, Yuhong, what's with that look? Don't learn anything and don't teach other disciples. Looking at the overjoyed Shining who ran out to plant with the storage bag, Yuhong seriously considered whether she should help the sect master plant a piece of land. After all, Xiantong had just been praised. Envious, sect master, 2 elders. Regarding junior sister Xiantong, I have something to report. Thinking of serious matters, she had to temporarily suppress her thoughts. Once she was done, she would occupy a piece of land in the back mountain. What is it? Lone Moon looked up. It's about her cultivation. Yuhong said awkwardly, she was born with a weak body and is not suitable for body cultivation. That's why she can't keep up with the cultivation methods of the sect. Previously, it was Jade Wave who taught her how to guide chi into her body. But he is a core cultivator after all, of the fire element. Junior sister also has a single water spirit root. She is not suitable to continue training with him. This was indeed a problem. Single water spirit root. Jianghu exclaimed. She looked at Lone Moon and the others in shock. Could it be that she is also? Lone Moon was silent for a while before nodding. That's right. Jianghu clenched her fists. She knew best what a purine body would be like. Although this was the immortal realm and her life was not as miserable as hers, just this kind of body was good material for refining all kinds of immortal weapons and immortal pills. Let me teach her. She also had a purine body. No one knew more about cultivation than she did. Lone Moon shook his head. Putting aside the plot, he said, she has already guided chi into her body. After all, your cultivation technique. Only then did he notice that she was surrounded by immortal chi and not the yin chi of a fiendish cultivator. I cultivated fiendish cultivation for revenge. Jianghu smiled. After arriving in the upper azure world, I dispersed my cultivation and recultivated. Now I am an immortal cultivator. So fast. Lone Moon still could not believe it. Not to mention the pain of dispersing one's cultivation and recultivating was unbearable for ordinary people. She also had to start from chi refinement. She had not seen her for only a few years. It's not that fast. I spent 500 years. It was also because she had to recultivate twice that she did not survive the lightning tribulation and became that spirit body. 500 years. Lone Moon was shocked. How is that possible? Wasn't it just a few? Wait. Could it be that there was a time difference between the immortal realm and the mortal realm? How long did you recultivate before you came to the upper azure world? Jianghu calculated. 200 years. She couldn't have been looking for them in the lower azure world for more than 700 years, could she? If that was the case, one day in the upper azure world was almost a year on Earth. He looked at her with admiration. You recultivated twice and were able to ascend in just 200 years. You are very talented. That's right. I Ching nodded. She was indeed someone whom Master had helped. Ordinary cultivators who want to become soul formation would not be so fast. Jianghu, Feng Ying, why did it sound like sarcasm coming from the two of them? Chapter 162. Then it's settled. I don't have any disciples under me anyway, so I'll take this child as my disciple, Jianghu said. No. Lone Moon unexpectedly objected. Why? It's not just because of the cultivation technique. Lone Moon frowned. Although the plot had already gone awry, it did not mean that it would not happen. He was still worried about handing it over to Jianghu, who did not know anything about it. Especially since that child seemed to have bad luck. She is a little special not just because of her physique. You can teach her cultivation, but it's better not to take her as a disciple. Special? Jianghu paused. What special? Lone Moon was stumped. He could not possibly say that she was the female lead and that she might cause him trouble. She has a demonic seed in her, Shining suddenly said. What? Everyone was shocked and turned to look at her. What? Lone Moon snatched the half-eaten fruit from her hand. What demonic seed? How did you know? I saw it. Shining tilted her head. Then why didn't you say so earlier? You didn't ask. Where's my knife? Doesn't she always have a lotus mark on her forehead? Shining changed to another fruit and continued nibbling. I thought you already knew. What does this have to do with the mark? He stopped mid-sentence, suddenly remembering something. His eyes widened. She can't be the mental demonic seed that was separated from Ning Zian's body back then, right? The baby girl did have a similar mark on her forehead. That's right. Holy shit. Right my ass. She actually did not mention such an important thing. Lone Moon wanted to smack this idiot to death, but after thinking about the plot that he knew, he felt that this was indeed the case. In the plot, the male lead originally cultivated the emotionless sword Dao, but he treated the female lead differently. Not only did he save her, but he also protected her and finally fell in love with her. At first, he thought that it was the female lead's halo, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized that the male lead was like this. It was very likely that they were originally one, which was why they were attracted to each other. And at that time, the male lead did not even know that he was Celestial Emperor Jianghu. Wait. He suddenly remembered something. She doesn't look like she has a demon seed in her heart. He had checked the child's bones and meridians. There was not a trace of demonic chi in her body, let alone a demonic seed. She looked like an ordinary child. At most, her aptitude was slightly better. Of course, it could also be due to her purine body. Oh. Shining seemed to recall something and added, "Your male lead melted a lotus flower into her body." Lotus? Lone Moon thought for a moment, then turned around in shock. Could it be the Tranquil Heart Lotus? I think so. As soon as she said that, the expressions of everyone present became somewhat complicated. Yu Hong was especially conflicted. No wonder little junior sister's luck is like that. What's wrong? Cultivation illiterate Ing looked at Chef beside her. Is there a problem? Master. I Ching was silent for a moment before explaining to her in a low voice. Rumor has it that the Tranquil Heart Lotus is a sacred object of the immortals. It can cleanse the spirit and calm the mind, wash away evil thoughts and let people maintain a clear heart. That's why it's named the Tranquil Heart Lotus. Everything in the world has a natural counter to each other. That's why it only appears in places with strong yin qi. It can purify yin qi. But he paused. The demonic seed of the heart demon is the embodiment of evil Chong. This thing melted into her body like a huge poison. It can suppress the demonic qi so that she can never have a demonic heart again. Of course, she can never become a demon again. She knew about this. And then? I Ching's frown deepened. Slowly he said, she reincarnated in the lower realm, so she can indeed wash away the demonic qi in her body. If I'm not wrong, this is already her third reincarnation. So the demonic qi in her body has basically disappeared. But in all things there is sacrifice, there is gain. She used reincarnation to get rid of the demonic qi, so naturally she has to pay a price. And the price she paid was obviously her own fate. What did he mean? Master, there's a reason why her luck is so bad. She was paying for the Tranquil Heart Lotus in her body and the demonic qi that disappeared. And fate cannot be reversed. Even if she becomes an independent soul in her next life, she will continue to be this unlucky for the rest of her life. So she has to be unlucky to the extreme? After all, Ningzi and was afraid that the demonic seed would cause trouble. What's more, the Tranquil Heart Lotus had already become one with Xian Tong's soul. It could not be taken out again. Since that's the case, then we won't accept her. Feng Ying suddenly said, Little you just need to guide her in her cultivation. Although he did not really understand, that did not stop him from grasping the main point of not accepting her as a disciple. They had gone through so much hardship to get to the good times, and Little you had not even agreed to be his Tao companion. What disciple would be a hindrance? No, not a single one. But Roasted Chicken Gal was still hesitant. The most unpredictable thing in the world is fate. We can't help. Before he could finish speaking, a familiar voice suddenly rang out. Ding. Item extracted successfully. Attribute Balancer. Wearing this item can balance all the attributes of the body, including fate. The next moment there was a clink. A blue crystal necklace appeared out of thin air and fell to the ground. Feng Ying, Shining, everyone who was being translated by Shining, flips table. Can't you chase after your wife properly? The system was indeed a high-tech product. After Shorty put on the attribute balancer, the situation of falling half to death every 3 days and tearing down a house every 5 days was greatly improved. She even walked faster and fell less. It was not difficult for her to climb up the mountain in one go. It was just that this so-called balance was too complete. Once the luck increased, the other attributes would be pulled down. She originally had the best heavenly spirit root and should have been able to cultivate at a fast pace. But after wearing the necklace, she was about the same as other cultivators with 3 or 4 spirit roots. Roasted Chicken Gal told Xian Tong everything and let her choose for herself. Xian Tong still chose to wear the necklace. Although her cultivation speed was slower, she was in the immortal realm. Compared to the cultivators in the lower realm, her cultivation speed was much faster. Although Jianghu did not officially accept her as a disciple, she treated her like a real disciple. Perhaps because they shared the same fate, apart from cultivating, Jianghu spent all her time teaching Xiantong. Feng Ying was very dissatisfied with this. In order to assert his dominance, he would occasionally go over to show his presence, only to be beaten out by Jianghu. Therefore, every day the disciples could see a black figure being thrown out of the martial arts arena by someone. Invincible's sect was shocked at first, then hesitated to stop the fight, and then, they got used to it. Perhaps because of her childhood experiences, Xiantong was very hard-working. Although she was limited by the balance balancer, she was especially serious about cultivation, almost to the extent that she did not care whether it was day or night. In a short 4 years, she had already reached the late golden core stage and was showing signs of forming a nascent soul. Although her cultivation level was the lowest among them, there were signs of immortal bones growing. In a few years she would become a real immortal. She had also grown from a short girl to a pretty girl who was even taller than Yu Hong. The only thing that did not change was that she had never stopped giving offerings to the sect master for 4 years. Shening looked at the endless green seedlings and vegetable fields and sighed deeply. When would she be able to eat all of this? Would she become a vegetarian in the future? Suddenly she felt that the future was full of despair. How about catching a few rabbits for Shorty to raise in a few days? Water more, water more. Radish waved its leaves to catch the water from Xin Ying's ladle. It said excitedly, "Little Missy, if you water me every day, I promise that the vegetables in this field will double." Double? Xin Ying's expression darkened. She kept the ladle and turned to leave. Who wants double the amount of vegetables? Yeah. Radish was stunned. It immediately used its leaves to wrap around the corner of her clothes and pulled half of its body out of the soil. Little Missy, don't go. Radish hasn't seen you for a long time. If not for the fact that its natural enemy had sealed it here to raise vegetables, it would not have wanted to plant it here. It only wanted to plant it in Little Missy's yard and bloom every day for her to see. It thought that Shining would kick it away as usual. But the person in front of it suddenly stopped in her tracks and looked ahead thoughtfully. Little Missy, what's wrong? Radish climbed onto her leg. Shining tilted her head. After a while she said, "Do you feel that the smog seems to have dispersed a little?" What buried? Chapter 163. Shining walked a few steps closer and looked in the direction of the demonic chi. She could vaguely see the shadows of withered branches in the black fog. She did not know if it was an illusion, but the fog really was much thinner. Could it be that there were more green plants in the sect recently, so the fog was effectively controlled? This was not a good sign. After all, these were Father Nyo's tools for making money. It felt like they were scattering lots and lots of immortal stones. Just as she was hesitating about whether she should directly collect these green plants, the demonic chi in front of her suddenly began to surge, gathering crazily in a certain place below. Little Missy, the demonic chi is disappearing. Radish, who was still hugging her leg, exclaimed. How can this be? Shining looked directly in the direction where the demonic chi was gathering. As if discovering something, she turned and jumped down. Among the demonic chi at the foot of the mountain, a man dressed in black was sitting cross-legged. He was even making hand seals and chanting something in a low voice. Instantly, large amounts of demonic chi seemed to be summoned towards him crazily and were all absorbed into his body. As the demonic chi increased, black demonic scars began to appear on his handsome face. His originally clear eyes also began to slowly turn red. Lan Hua suppressed the excitement in his heart and did his best to absorb the demonic chi. He desperately cleansed the remaining half of his immortal bones in his body. He had destroyed his Tao and become a demon for many years, but still could not get rid of the last bit of kindness in his heart. He could not become a real sky fiend. He did not expect that there would be so much demonic chi hidden in such a remote corner of the immortal world. Even the heavens were really helping him. With this demonic chi, he could finally completely cleanse his immortal bones and become a sky fiend. He worked even harder to absorb the demonic chi around him. He could even feel the power in his body rising crazily. Violent killing emotions occupied all his emotions. His spirit platform was getting darker and darker. The last bit of light was about to be completely dyed black. As long as he had this demonic chi, he could definitely, hey big brother. Suddenly he felt a weight on his shoulder. Lan Hua, who was concentrating on absorbing the demonic qi, felt a pain in his chest. He was instantly stuck. Before he could react, a magnified face appeared in front of him. An unfamiliar woman suddenly squatted in front of him. She supported her head with one hand and looked at him expressionlessly. "Are you absorbing the fog here?" "Ha." He did not react for a moment and nodded blankly. "You're not an air purifier." She glanced at the demonic qi around her. It was much thinner now. Father Nyo was going to lose out on the clients he led in this time. Inhaling too much haze isn't good for your body. Lan Hua subconsciously let go of his hand that was forming the seal. He was stunned for 2 seconds before he came back to his senses. His eyes widened abruptly. No, why did he listen to her? "Who are you?" He didn't even notice that someone was nearby. "My name is Shining. I live here." She pointed behind him. "Live here? How could this be?" The immortal realm had always avoided devil qi, so how could there be people living here? He subconsciously looked back and indeed he saw an immortal mountain behind him. He could faintly sense the aura of immortals coming from it, and there were quite a few of them. There really were people living in the demonic qi. Previously, when he saw so much demonic energy, he was too excited. Coupled with the dense demonic energy, he did not pay much attention to it. Unexpectedly, there really was an immortal mountain hidden within. Were these immortals crazy? He actually lived here. His heart sank and killing intent surged in his eyes. His demonic cultivation had not been completed, and he had not completely eliminated his kindness. He must not expose his whereabouts now. "Since you found out, then I can't keep." Suddenly he formed a claw with his hand and reached for the other party's chest. He was about to go straight for her heart. "Want to eat?" Suddenly she took out a fruit from somewhere and handed it over kindly. It just so happened that it landed in his claw. Lan Hua immediately stiffened. He looked at the fruit that suddenly appeared in his hand and did not come back to his senses for a long time. "For me?" "Yes." She nodded, seeing that he was Father Nyo's client. "Don't you like it?" "There's no more, this is the last one." With that said, she took out another one and crunched into it. "Look at how hungry you are, you don't even let go of the haze. How pitiful." She sighed. Lan Hua looked at the fruit in his hand again. The immortal retaining fruit. Although it was not fully ripe, it had healing effects. There was no way she could not tell that he was a fiendish cultivator. Why would she do this to a fiendish immortal? All he felt was that the murderous thoughts that filled his mind just now suddenly quietened down. The faint light in his spirit platform that was almost invisible suddenly brightened. His demonic qi reversed and his blood and meridians broke. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Not good. The remaining kindness in his Tao heart. Hey. What are you doing?" Shining was shocked. She pulled up his shirt and wanted to help wipe it off. "Don't suddenly spit out blood and scare me. Don't touch me." He pushed her hand away in a panic. The blood in his heart was even more chaotic. No, he could not suppress it anymore. "You?" He raised his head abruptly and glared at her with bloodshot eyes. He looked like he was going to eat her up. "Why did you do this?" He spent tens of thousands of years and finally suppressed the last bit of kindness in his heart. Yet it was directly awakened by a fruit from her. Shining looked confused. "What did I do?" You did it on purpose, didn't you?" He was so angry that his face was twisted. He glared at her. "So what if you awaken my kindness? You're still going to die here today." With that said, the demonic qi on his body suddenly surged and formed a long black blade. He slashed at her without any care. Hey. Shining looked confused. Why did he suddenly change his expression? She was just about to reach out to block. But he suddenly stopped 2 steps away from her. With a puff, he spat out another mouthful of blood. The demonic qi on his body dissipated. Even the long black blade disappeared. He lay on the ground and began to spit out mouthfuls of blood like a watering can. Lan Hua even had the urge to curse out loud. Damn. He actually could not move. Kindness was born because of her. She was his kindness. His body instinctively refused to hurt her, even if it hurt him. No. He had to kill her. Otherwise he would never become a sky fiend. At the risk of breaking all his meridians, he once again materialized a black blade and slashed at the saber. "No matter what, you go." Before the word, "die," left his mouth, just as the blade was about to land on her, his hand suddenly stiffened. It stopped in midair. Even the words that were about to come out of his mouth changed uncontrollably. "Go, sit on a rock." The demonic chi here is strong. You'll get sick. Then he kept the blade and used his sleeves to sweep the rock beside him. Wait, what was he doing? Lan Hua regained his composure. He immediately flared up and slashed at the blade for the third time. I don't believe that I can't kill. I can't just stand there. I already said that the demonic chi is strong. Would it be better if I wore this supreme-grade Dharma artifact? Shining, why would he say something like that? So it was the fourth time. No one can stop me from becoming a demon. Why don't you have any immortal weapons on you? Take this. This is what I used when I was cultivating. The fifth time. I won't be bewitched by kindness. Do you want to eat the fruit? This immortal retaining fruit is too ordinary. It's useless. I have a treasure spirit fruit. I only get one every 10,000 years. It can increase your cultivation level. Do you want it? The sixth time. I also need immortal talismans and Dharma treasures. The two onlookers, Radish. Have you seen a lunatic before? Not in the past. Now I have. Shining, Radish. Chapter 164. The man and the radish looked at a certain someone, confused. One moment he wanted to kill someone, and the next he could not help but take out a bunch of things and force them into her hands. In less than half a minute, his black blade did not get within a meter of her. Instead, there was a pile of immortal weapons, Dharma treasures, immortal talismans, immortal pills, and all kinds of immortal fruits and immortal herbs. Shining confirmed that this person was sick beyond belief, until he seemed to have nothing else to take out before he stopped this crazy behavior. He gave up and sat down beside a withered tree, his face full of despair. As a few withered leaves floated down from time to time, the entire scene turned into black and white. For some reason, Shining felt a little guilty. That, Grandaunt? I beg you don't come any closer. Lan Hua looked like he was about to cry. I've already given you the Dharma robe I'm wearing. There's nothing else I can give you? If she came any closer, he would have to take off his underwear. He never knew that his good heart was actually a wastrel. He was already halfway to immortal and demonic. He thought that this demonic chi would allow him to completely become a sky fiend. He did not expect this to happen. He was the only one in the world to cultivate to this extent. His heart hurt. Shining frowned. She glanced at the pile of Dharma treasures around her, then looked at the demonic chi around her that was much thinner. Feeling even more guilty, she sighed and said, Do you have immortal stones? Lan Hua, who was the demon here? The corner of Lan Hua's mouth twitched. Resigned to his fate, he stretched out his hand and formed a hand seal. Immediately, a bulging storage bag appeared in his hand. He tossed it over. Take it all. There was nothing left anyway. Thank you, boss. Shining glanced at it and laughed. You may not know this, but this haze is Father Nyo's business. You can't just absorb it. You just absorb so much you naturally have to pay. Fortunately, it was him here. If it was Father Nyo, she glanced at the man who was stripped down to his underwear. She was still kind. As for the pants, did he pay enough? Shining picked up the Dharma robe that he had just taken off and threw it over. There's no need for this. Put it on. Don't catch a cold. Lan Hua took it and immediately felt a warm feeling in his heart. A familiar feeling assaulted him, and he immediately had the urge to take off his underwear and give it to her. He gritted his teeth and suppressed this shameful thought. This damned kindness. He took a deep breath and put his clothes back on. He looked at the woman in front of him and cautiously took a step back, maintaining a safe distance so that he wouldn't be affected by kindness again. Hey, what are you? Just as he was about to ask what was going on, he felt several immortal auras coming his way. One of them was especially strong. This immortal aura belonged to the young emperor. His expression changed immediately. He did not expect that there would be an immortal with young emperor cultivation in such a remote place. He had been too careless. In his current situation, it was not suitable for him to clash with them. He turned around and glared at the people buried in the various immortal artifacts and Dharma treasures, warning in a deep voice, Hey! If you don't want to die, don't tell anyone that you've seen me. He couldn't help but add, Of course I won't hurt you. F***ck. Once he finished speaking, he looked as if he wanted to bite off his own tongue, but he did not stay any longer. His figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. Shining, she looked at the dazzling objects on the ground. There was so much material evidence, would it make a difference whether she said it or not? In the next moment, Lone Moon and I Ching flew over. Master, I felt something strange with the demonic chi. Did you? I Ching stopped mid-sentence. He looked at the immortal artifacts and Dharma treasures on the ground, stunned. Master, this, holy shit. Lone Moon was also shocked. You were only gone for 15 minutes. Whose treasury did you rob? The mental hospital. Do you believe me? Don't talk nonsense. Quick, chef, help me out. She stretched out her hand from the pile of treasures. I'm buried and can't get out. Radish is on my leg. It's almost crushed to death. I Ching, Lone Moon, as a person of integrity, Shining naturally, told Father Nyo everything that happened at the bottom of the mountain. What a joke. She was not going to take the blame for such a huge loss. Anyway, they were not very close. After hearing that, Lone Moon sighed and silently put away the compensation on the ground. His expression did not change much. He just replied calmly, oh. Shining was stunned. She could not help but ask, there's less demonic chi. Is it okay? What happened to the special product of Invincible Sect? Father Nyo's reaction was not right. I was planning to think of a way to dispel the demonic chi in the near future. This saved him a lot of trouble. When he said that, not only Shining but even I Ching looked at him in surprise. What? This method of selling demonic chi using spirit transmission talismans is not a long-term solution after all. Lone Moon said nonchalantly. It's fine to have a sense of mystery at first. But as time passes, people will find out that there's something strange about it. He used the auction method to maintain a sense of mystery so that people would not guess that it was demonic chi. But after selling it for a long time, people would not be stupid. There would be people who would take things too hard and exchange their experiences. It was only a matter of time before they found out. That was why he had already stopped working with Shu Jiang half a year ago. What's more, all the disciples in the sect, except for Xian Tong, had successfully become Earth Immortals. With I Ching the young emperor around, unless the 10 celestial emperors personally came to find trouble with them, they really had nothing to fear. Of course, this was under the condition that Shining was a cheat. I've already discussed with Wu Hong and Celestial Emperor Biao Ting about the immortal herbs. It won't be long before the first batch of immortal herb seeds is sent over, Lone Moon said naturally. Oh yes, those vegetables in the back mountain and so on, quickly help me clean them up. Don't blindly plant them anymore and waste the land. In the future, let Radish plant immortal herbs from the heavens beyond heaven in batches. I've already discussed the distribution channels. I Ching, Shining, when exactly did he talk about it? Why did they not know at all? She really regretted handing over all the immortal stones just now. She should have kept some money for herself. Lone Moon did not expect that before the seeds from the 2 celestial emperors arrived, Bao Feiping, whom he had not seen for a long time, arrived. His cultivation level had increased again. He was already a Stygian immortal. When he saw Lone Moon and I Ching's cultivation level, he did not seem surprised. It was as if he already knew. Bao Feiping bowed to the few of them and smiled especially warmly. But for some reason Lone Moon felt that compared to the naive city Lord Bao from a few years ago, there seemed to be something missing. There was a hint of arrogance in his expression. He reached out and handed a golden card to Lone Moon. Mystic Spirits and Immortals Association? Lone Moon frowned and put down the card in his hand. He looked at Bao Feiping. This is an invitation from the Celestial Emperor himself. He specially instructed us to attend the Immortals meeting at the Heaven Beyond Heaven in half a month. Bao Feiping's smile deepened. Chapter 165. Monarch? Ningzi. No, Celestial Emperor Jianghu has returned to the heavens beyond heaven? Wasn't he recuperating at the Bo family? Bao Feiping smiled and looked around. Seeing that there were only 3 of them, he explained, to tell you the truth, the Celestial Emperor had already recovered his cultivation 2 years ago and returned to the immortal Rainbow Palace in the heavens beyond heaven. I'm afraid that all the countries in the Fengtsang continent have already received the news that the Emperor has come out of seclusion. Therefore, this Mystic Spirits and Immortals gathering will be held to celebrate the Emperor's coming out of seclusion. What competition? Lone Moon noticed this word. Is there a competition at this immortal gathering? Don't you know? Bao Feiping paused and looked at them in surprise. Then, as if recalling something, he explained, young Emperor I Ching has only just ascended to the throne. It's normal that he doesn't know. The Mystic Spirits and Immortals meeting was only held once every 100 years. Although it was personally hosted by the Emperor, it was actually just a fair competition between the nations of Fengtsang continent. Although young Emperor I Ching has yet to officially establish a nation and proclaim himself as an emperor, his cultivation is already that of a young emperor. Naturally, he has the right to participate in this immortal gathering. I see. In other words, the so-called mystic spirits and immortals meeting was actually a mini-Olympics? Furthermore, it was held once every 100 years. What was Jianghu? Olympic Committee? Will all the monarchs go? But our sect has too few disciples. If that's the case, wouldn't it be? They had too few people. If they participated in this kind of competition, wouldn't they be sending themselves to die? I understand Elder Loneman's concerns. Bao Feiping stepped forward and continued, but I think it would be better for your sect to participate. Lone Moon understood what he was implying. What? He seemed to have thought of something and his expression changed. Gritting his teeth, he lowered his voice and said, I'll be frank with you. Actually, 2 years ago, when the Celestial Emperor returned to the Immortal Rainbow Palace, he received a joint petition from the various country emperors. They said that your invincible sect had created chaos in the Fengtsang continent and even schemed to destroy Immortal Emperor Guyu's capital city. They begged the emperor to punish them. What they didn't know was that the emperor had known them for a long time and trusted them. The emperor could tell that there was more to this matter, so he suppressed it all. He looked at I Ching and continued, the Celestial Emperor has always seen through the intentions of the various emperors in Fengtsang continent. Later, when they heard about young Emperor I Ching ascending to the throne from the Emperor Ascension stage, they guessed that the monarchs of the various countries were just unwilling to see another immortal young emperor joining forces to suppress your sect. No matter what, your esteemed sect has helped the celestial monarch, so we are naturally biased towards your esteemed sect. Therefore, if your sect doesn't participate in the Immortals gathering in the name of Chongjin Nation, and instead participates alone, it will be difficult for you to do so. On one hand, it will show that the emperor supports your sect. On the other hand, it will warn the other emperors to restrain their thoughts of suppressing you. As soon as he finished speaking, Loneman's face darkened. So it was all caused by those monarchs. She had thought that they had been beaten up by I Ching, but she did not expect that they had been secretly stabbing them in the back. He didn't dare to seek trouble openly, so he reported to the Immortal Rainbow Palace and wanted to borrow the Celestial Thearcha's hand to take revenge. What a good plan. However, they probably didn't expect that they were already acquainted with Heavenly Emperor Jianghu. Indeed, it was better to let Shining the cheat be reasonable. Those who were not beaten to the point of questioning their own lives would want to struggle a little. That's why it's best that your esteemed sect doesn't miss this immortal gathering. Whether you can win the competition or not is secondary. Sending a few disciples to participate is just a formality. Bao Feiping kindly reminded Lone Moon. Thank you, fellow immortal Bao. Lone Moon politely returned the gesture. Exalted immortal, you're too kind. Bao Feiping smiled, but a look of genuine worry flashed across his eyes. Although the immortal gathering will be held in the heavens beyond heaven, and the celestial emperor will be there, the various monarchs are not easy to deal with. However, the monarchs of the various countries are not easy to get along with, so everyone should be more careful on this trip. We'll remember that. Bao Feiping nodded. He explained the details of the immortal gathering to them, then stood up to leave. I still have matters to attend to at the Immortal Rainbow Palace. I'll return to the heavens beyond heaven first. Take care, fellow immortal. Lone Moon stood up to send him off. Bao Feiping then turned around and flew off on his sword. I Ching, who had been standing silently by the side until Bao Feiping could no longer be seen, finally asked, You trust him? Something felt off. Most likely. Lone Moon returned to his chair and picked up the cup of tea on the table to take a sip. Mingzi. No. Celestial Emperor Jianghu has been in seclusion for thousands of years. It's impossible that no one has guessed what's going on. He's reopening the mystic spirits and immortals gathering, of course, not just to support us. What's more, they did not need to support him. He's just trying to intimidate the various monarchs and announce his authority as the Celestial Emperor. Anyone who could become a Celestial Emperor was a shrewd man. You intend to go? Of course I have to go. Loneman's eyes flashed. This was a great opportunity to do business. He was looking forward to seeing how the various monarchs would react when they saw I Ching. He had not even gotten his medical fees back from last time. This was the perfect opportunity. City Lord Bao, didn't you say that this competition will be divided into groups based on cultivation? Anyone below the exalted immortal level can participate. We can forget about the mystic immortal and Stygian immortal groups. We can just participate in the golden immortal and earth immortal groups. Especially the earth immortals. Didn't they say that the top 10 would be rewarded? Then he would take the top 10. He had faith in the diamond Barbies in his sect. I Ching did not ask further as he thought about the ferocious girls in the sect. Late at night. The night was dark and windy. Xining wanted to sleep. Hey, what's that? Good heart. A familiar voice suddenly sounded. Xining, who was about to sleep, stopped in her tracks. She looked around and saw a black figure in the corner that was slowly being formed by the black fog. Xining paused. Hey boss, you're here to absorb the fog again? Did you bring enough money? What do you mean? The black figure that had just formed was stunned. A moment later it seemed to recall something. It looked around cautiously, trying its best to hide the aura of its illusory body. I'm here to remind you. Did you bring immortal stones? She asked suddenly. Lan Hua froze. Then he exploded. Where would I get immortal stones? Didn't I give them all to you last time? Oh. Xining laid her head on the bed, ignoring him. Damn. Why are you sleeping? I already said I had something to do. Lan Hua panicked. He went forward and tugged at her clothes. This is for your own good. Don't be ungrateful. He tugged for a long time, but the person on the bed ignored him. Lan Hua's expression darkened. Anger rose in his heart. If she didn't want to listen, he didn't care. Then, he gritted his teeth and took out a handful of fine immortal stones and placed them beside the pillow. This damn good heart. The person on the bed sat up immediately. As she grabbed the immortal stones, she asked, Boss, what's the matter? Why would his good heart be born for someone like this? Chapter 166. The corners of Lan Hua's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to vomit blood. Then he said, I heard that you're going to the immortal Rainbow Palace in the heavens beyond heaven to participate in the mystic spirits and immortals meeting. Is that true? Yeah. Jianghu. Xining turned to look at him. You know him? Lan Hua was stumped and something flashed across his face. After a while he said, That's not important. I came to tell you that those celestial emperors aren't good people. She pulled the quilt. You don't believe me? Lan Hua was even more anxious now. He pulled down the blanket and said, I'm telling the truth, especially Jianghu. Although he has the best reputation among the 10 celestial emperors, who knows what he does behind the scenes? He seemed to think of something and his brows tightened. You have to be careful. It's best not to have too much contact with people like this, understand? Oh. But there are so many people participating in the tournament, so you probably won't meet him. I'm not participating in the tournament. What? He was shocked. He had accidentally overheard the disciples of the sect talking about the mystic spirits and immortals meeting. He was so impulsive that he had rushed over to remind her. Now that she had calmed down and thought about it, she was just an earth immortal. Furthermore, if one's immortal chi was so weak that one couldn't even see it, then they indeed weren't qualified to participate in the competition. It seemed that he had been nervous for nothing. He immediately let out a long sigh of relief. It's best if you don't go? I'm going. What? He had just calmed down, but now he felt a surge of anger. If it wasn't an illusion, he would have spat out a mouthful of blood. If you don't participate in the competition, what are you going to do? Father Nyo said so, she said, not wanting to go either. What Father Nyo? He's an elder in charge of money in our sect. Has your elder gone mad? Lan Hua was getting more and more anxious. His entire phantom was floating back and forth in front of her. Is there no one else here? Why did they send an earth immortal like you to join in the fun? The realm beyond heaven was not a fun place. Listen to me, don't go. Probably not. What? Because? I think I'm the sect leader. Huh? Lan Hua was stunned for a few seconds. Sect leader? Pardon me for asking. The people of your sect, are their brains filled with demonic energy? Choosing an earth immortal to be the sect leader. Just as he was about to ask a few more questions, his figure swayed, and the entire phantom image slowly faded away, as if it couldn't be maintained for much longer. He was a little flustered and hurriedly instructed, My illusory body can't last much longer. Remember to be careful of Jianghu. He's not a good immortal. Prepare more immortal treasures and magic tools. Bring the sun-concealing cotton I gave you last time, and also the Kinwater damask, the soul-protecting hairpin. All right, and the heaven-fixing bell. Bring all of them. He hurriedly reported the names of a bunch of equipment, but his voice was getting softer and softer. Just as he was about to disappear, he added one last sentence. If you really can't do it, you can find me in the willow forest 100 miles away. I have to go now. Remember, don't tell anyone about my visit today. With that, the black phantom completely disappeared from the room. Oh. Shining nodded seriously, then turned to look at the two people who had been standing at the door for a long time. This doesn't count as snitching, right? I Ching, Lone Moon, a while later, 100 miles away in the southwest corner of the willow forest. Oh. Go. Get. With a swoosh, the sword in I Ching's hand emitted cold chi. In a flash he flew out of the sect. Little b asterisk tc, just you wait. 2 hours later, in the main hall of Invincible Sect. I Ching and Lone Moon sat side by side on the right, while Bitao, Fengying and Qingyu sat on the left. They were all looking at the demon, Immortal, who had been beaten black and blue and was tied up like a meat dumpling. No one made a sound. The only sound in the main hall was the sound of Shining, who was sitting at the head of the table, chewing on her fruit. Who the hell are you? Finally, Lone Moon was the first to speak. In a low voice, he asked, What is your purpose for breaking into Invincible Sect in the middle of the night? Lan Hua felt like all the bones in his body were about to fall apart. He glared at Lone Moon, who was sitting at the head of the table, his stomach full of resentment. Didn't they agree not to tell anyone? Indeed, no immortal cultivator could be trusted. But seeing that Lan Hua did not respond for a long time, I Ching raised his hand and 5 or 6 swords made of immortal chi appeared around him. The sword chi pressed down on him, leaving him nowhere to run. Lan Hua's wounds hurt even more. Thinking back to the scene in the willow forest, he wanted to vomit blood. He had been cultivating for many years. Although he had not become a sky fiend, to put it bluntly, he was invincible below the celestial emperor level. He had never thought that he would be beaten up by a young emperor. Damn it, sword immortals were indeed perverted. This one was especially perverted. He glanced at the immortal swords beside him to prevent himself from getting hit again. Then, gritting his teeth, he said his real name, I am Lan Hua. Then he laughed coldly and looked at the two people who had asked him the question, waiting for them to look panicked. That's right. He was Lan Hua, the demon lord Lan Hua. Lan Hua. Lone Moon frowned. Who? What kind of stupid name was that? Yi Hua. He felt like he had been stabbed. Bitao. You've been in the immortal realm the longest. Have you heard of him? Lan Hua. Lan. Bitao lowered his head and thought for a moment. After a while, he said with certainty, No. Another stab. Impossible. He panicked and struggled to sit up. Think carefully. Demon Lord Lan Hua of the heavens beyond heaven. The one who single-handedly challenged the 10 celestial emperors 1,000 years ago. It's impossible that none of you have heard of him, right? No. Everyone answered in unison, including those who were still chewing on fruits. They wanted to vomit blood. Lone Moon, is there a demon lord in the immortal realm? Bitao, this is the first time I've heard of it too. Qingyu, perhaps there is. Wasn't I a demon supremacy before? Shining, I've seen a demon king before. I Ching, this one is probably too weak to be called a demon king. System, ding. Don't call him a demon king. Be civilized. Lan Hua, that's enough. You can't insult a demon like that. Lan Hua had been in hiding for thousands of years. He had been a demon for tens of thousands of years. This was the first time he realized that his reputation was so low. Then for the past several thousand years, he had been trembling with fear, hiding his head and showing his tail, afraid that his enemies would discover his tracks. What was it for? What was it for? The demon life was so hopeless. Cut the crap. Lone Moon was getting impatient with the questions. He looked at the man in the middle who looked like a frosted eggplant. You've sneaked into Invincible Sect twice. What are you trying to do? Only then did he suppress his broken heart. He glared at Shining with even more resentment. He looked like he had given up on life and replied, I was trying to absorb the demonic chi around me to increase my cultivation. Then why are you doing it tonight? For her. He looked up at Shining. I didn't want to come either, but I left something with her. Lone Moon's expression darkened. That's not right. Shining had already handed over the pile of demonic chi. Could it be that she had a secret stash of money? What is it? Lan Hua looked at Shining, his eyes filled with grievance. He subconsciously replied, My heart. Shining, Lone Moon, With a swoosh, an immortal sword was pressed against Lan Hua's neck. I Ching's sword chi was overflowing. Enunciating each word, he said, "How many pieces do you want to become?" Indeed, he was a little B*TCH who coveted his master. Everyone, did they just hear a Devil Monarch level confession to a girl? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.